Chapter 40-32. Ever since Ning Qi made the announcement to the entire immortal world in the live broadcast room that day, he stayed in the ancient star pavilion with King Yama and the others. The immortals gathered for a few days. Then the rest of the celestials left the ancient star pavilion. They had already left the celestial realm and could explore the god Luo realm. King Yama and Sun Wukong were brought to the heavenly court by Ning Qi. As for the changes happening in Tyli land every day, Ning Qi was not afraid with great Empress Feng, the Black Wind Cave Master, and the others watching. It would create too much chaos. However, Ning Qi didn't have the time to care about the situation in the absolute beginning lands. For a very long period of time, other than the land of Tyli and the land of Primordial Era, the lands of change in the divine net domain would be in turmoil. For a long time, countless people died. It wasn't until these changes were accepted by the cultivators everywhere that order was slowly established. Heavenly Court. King Yenluo saw many familiar faces. When Goku and Bull Demon King met, they stared at each other. "Your cultivation isn't as high as mine, monkey." The Bull Demon King cackled. Behind him, the Kirin looked up at Sun Wukong and then went back to sleep. Sun Wukong's cultivation level was too low. He had only just entered the 4th step and was no different from an ant in the eyes of a 6th step cultivator. Master said that as long as I reach the divine realm of creation, it won't be long before my cultivation surpasses yours. It has the opportunity to step into the 6th step or even the 7th step. Goku cast a sidelong glance at the Bull Demon King. His confidence was still very high, and he was not discouraged by the short gap in cultivation. "That's true. You are the disciple of the North Mystic Celestial Emperor. It's only a matter of time before you surpass me." Bull Demon King had a strange look on his face. When the Kirin heard this, its eyes suddenly widened. Then, it looked at Sun Wukong with a hint of surprise. A fawning look. Supreme Palace of Jade Purity. Fang Lingming already knew about the changes in the divine Luo world. When she found out that the celestial world had merged with the divine Luo world, her expression instantly changed. He asked curiously, "Do you know where Haotian is?" Ning Qi shook his head and said, "I have scanned all the places that have changed, including the immortal realm, but I have not found the whereabouts of Haotian." As a 7th step cultivator, his divine powers were already comparable to an ordinary heavenly Tao. However, Ning Qi still couldn't find Ning Haotian. Clearly, some kind of power was quietly stopping him. Otherwise, Ning Haotian's blood flowed in his veins. As long as he sensed something, there was no reason for him to be unable to calculate her location. Even you can't find him. Maybe Hao Tian is really in a very safe place. Fang Lingming heaved a sigh of relief instead of feeling nervous. Ning Qi nodded slightly. Suddenly, a streak of light dashed toward them from afar. It was a Tier 6 God Realm warrior that Ning Qi had rescued from the Sea God's kingdom. He half knelt in the air and said, "Celestial Emperor Baixian, the sect master of the ancient God sect is here to see you." "The sect chief of the Eternal God sect?" Ning Qi's eyes flickered as he smiled and said, "I understand. Go, in a few days. I plan to travel with little sister Li Xian and little sister Shuer, but we want to go to Earth. After you're done with your work, send us to the divine Luo world." Fang Lingming laughed. Oh, Ning Qi was silent for several breaths of time. Then, he smiled and nodded, "All right." Fang Lingming and the rest basically wouldn't be in any danger if they went to Shunluo world. The only thing they had to be wary of was King Qilin and the rest. However, when Ning Qi left an aura imprint on them, even if King Qilin and the rest found out about Fang Lingming and the rest, they probably wouldn't dare to act rashly. With the presence of the other women, they probably wouldn't dare to act rashly. As long as they thought of it, Ning Qi would be able to save them in time. By then, the Holy Assembly would completely fall out with the Heavenly Court. According to Ning Qi, King Qilin and the rest were not willing to see such a situation happen. "If there's trouble, we won't go," Fong Lingming's eyes flickered. It's not too much trouble. It's good for you to go out and relax. Ning Qi smiled and shook his head. In front of Lingshao Palace of the Golden Arches, Lu Lingyu stood obediently behind a middle-aged man. Beside her stood a dozen or so sixth-grade warriors of the God Realm, and that middle-aged man emitted a peak-advanced Tier 6 aura. In the Divine Luo world, this person was comparable to the sect master of the Divine Sect. They were both peak rank 9 great emperors. Lu Lingyu looked at the figure not far away with a strange gaze. The figure was holding a broom and sweeping the ground. It was hard to imagine that this place used to be the famous Eternal God Sect. A prodigy. Other than Lu Lingyu, the rest of the people's gazes were curious, angry, and gloomy. But no one opened their mouth. The middle-aged man looked at Lin Xian indifferently and said slowly, "You've been sweeping here all this time, and you've become more composed. You've become more composed." Lin Xian slowly raised her head. When she saw the middle-aged man and the rest of the people, a happy smile appeared on her face. "Master, elders, senior brothers and junior sisters, you're all here." Seeing that Lin Xian looked good and that everyone was still very calm, everyone, including Lu Lingyu, was shocked. Everyone, including Lu Lingyu, was surprised. Could it be that the master of the heavenly court had brainwashed Lin Xian? A dignified Tier 6 God Realm warrior sweeping the ground in front of someone else's door, and even sweeping with a distant attitude? "Senior brother Lin, Master is here to bring you back to the sect," a Tier 6 God Realm warrior said in a low voice. "Bring me back to the sect?" Lin Xian's expression changed slightly. Then, she hurriedly gave the middle-aged man a look. "Master, I'm doing very well here. I don't plan to leave any time soon. Also, I made a promise with Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian to sweep here for 100 years. I can't break the promise." "It's not up to you to decide whether to break the promise or not. Everyone knows that the #1 prodigy of the Eternal God Sect is with someone else." "Sweeping the ground in front of the door?" The middle-aged man frowned slightly. Lin Xian's face showed a trace of shame. "I've brought shame to the sect, but—" "No buts. Senior brother Lin, just listen to Master this time. I believe that Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian will give Master face." The Tier 6 God Realm warrior from before spoke again. "No," Lin Xian pointed to a corner. "Look over there, there." The Hague City Lord was kneeling facing the wall. He had long sensed the arrival of the middle-aged man and the others. However, he was restrained by a force, unable to make a sound or make any movements. He could only remain kneeling in humiliation. His cultivation was slightly lower than that of the Eternal God Sect's sect master, but they were of the same generation. They had once discussed the Tao together. After a few days, but now, he could only kneel here in humiliation. When this scene was seen by someone familiar, it made his face feel like it was being roasted over charcoal fire. Everyone's gaze fell on the Hague City Lord. The middle-aged man's expression changed, a trace of seriousness in his eyes. "Master, no matter what, when Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian arrives, we should discuss it. Don't force it." Lin Xian wanted to say something but stopped. In truth, he really wanted to chase them away. It was already embarrassing enough for the Everlasting God Sect to have him sweeping the floor here. If someone didn't offend Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian, then the Eternal God Sect's face would be thrown away. Looking for the dragon slaying system for free? Baidu directly searched. Speed reading pavilion. Read without waiting. == Chapter 4033. I know what I'm doing. The middle-aged man glanced at Lin Xian and said nothing. The 6th grade Divine Realm warriors behind him looked at the Hague City governor from time to time with fear in their eyes. Originally, they had some confidence when they came to the heavenly court, but now their confidence was slowly diminishing. At that moment, little Yuer and Zhua Ling landed in front of everyone on their Qilin mounts. The Celestial Emperor is waiting for you in the soaring heaven palace. Please follow me. Little Yu glanced at everyone and her eyes lingered on Lu Lingyu for a few moments. The Eternal Divine Sex people were angry when they saw the heavenly court only sent 2 fifth-step cultivators to greet them. Looks like the Celestial Emperor Bei Xian isn't strict enough. The middle-aged man sighed softly. Lin Xian's hair stood on end when she heard that. She quickly winked at the middle-aged man and hinted at him. What do you mean? Little Yu frowned slightly and looked at the middle-aged man. Logically speaking, as the Eternal Divine Sect Master and the Sect Master of the top 100 sects, the 8 ultimate gods would send someone with a cultivation level similar to mine to greet me. I know the Heavenly Court doesn't pay much attention to this, but it's fine. It's just a little impolite. The middle-aged man smiled and did not seem to care. Little Yu and Zhuo Ling understood the hidden meaning. He was clearly saying that the Heavenly Court had just opened and did not have enough resources to connect with people. Perhaps sensing the 2 women's anger, the 2 Qilins suddenly widened their eyes and stared at the middle-aged man with murderous intent. These 2 beasts are interesting. The middle-aged man looked at the Qilins with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. I hope you can still smile so happily when you see the Celestial Emperor. Little Yu gave the middle-aged man a meaningful look before walking toward the soaring heaven palace. The middle-aged man frowned slightly as he looked at the 2 women's backs. However, his brows relaxed again when he thought of the person he had met before coming to the heavenly court. Even if the heavenly court's Bei Xian Heavenly Emperor did not give face to ordinary ultimate gods, would he dare to not give face to that person? The middle-aged man smiled and said, Let's go and meet the North Mystic Celestial Emperor. When the rank SXS heard that, they immediately followed the middle-aged man into the soaring heaven palace. Lin Xian immediately sent a telepathic message to the middle-aged man, Master, promise me not to get into a conflict with the heavenly monarch Bei Xian. The middle-aged man glanced at him, smiled, and nodded slightly. Lin Xian suddenly had a bad feeling. Based on her understanding of her master probably had something to rely on for bringing everyone to the heavenly court this time. It was just that, he would rather his master had no one to rely on. That way, nothing would happen to him. If his master really had someone to rely on, it would be the end of the Eternal God sect if his master's backer couldn't suppress the North Profound Celestial Emperor. In the soaring Heaven King Palace, Ningqi sat on the main seat. He was the only one in the huge Lingshao King's palace. Ningqi didn't set any strict rules for the heavenly court. The cultivators in the heavenly court could do whatever they wanted as long as they followed the basic rules. They had a high degree of freedom. When the middle-aged man and the others entered the palace, they found that it was empty except for a figure sitting in front of them. Their heavy hearts suddenly relaxed a little. The middle-aged man's lips curved slightly as he cupped his hands at Ningqi. Senior, you must be the North Profound Celestial Emperor? Little Yu and Zhuo Ling stood on either side of Ningqi. After they stood still, Ningqi smiled at the middle-aged man. What's the matter? I'm the Eternal God Sect Master, Jing Donghan. I'm here today for my disciple. Jing Donghan smiled. And? Ningqi smiled. I learned that my disciple offended Senior some time ago and was punished by Senior to sweep the floor for 100 years. I shouldn't have come here to disturb Senior. After all, it's only right for him to be punished. It's just that my disciple was quite famous back then. When the news spread, the top 100 sects and the cultivators in the streets all had their opinions about the Eternal God sect. Therefore, I'm here to bring my disciple back to the Eternal God sect. But don't worry, Senior, I will personally punish my disciple for his mistake. Jing Donghan cupped his hands and smiled. You're here just for that? Ningqi smiled. Yes, please forgive me, Senior. Jing Donghan said. Before I get too angry, scram back to the Eternal God sect. I can pretend that I didn't hear your arrogance and criticism of the heavenly court. How about it? Ning Qi smiled. Jing Donghan's expression changed. The other 6th grade God Realm warriors were also enraged. The other party's words were too rude. What did he mean by scram back to the eternal God sect? The atmosphere in the soaring heaven of the Golden Arches Palace became tense. After a few breaths of silence, Jing Donghan forced a smile. May I know what Senior wants me to do to bring my disciple back? You said that Lin Xian is sweeping the floor of my heavenly court and that he's shaming your myriad ancient god sect. You don't want to see that happen. But have you ever considered that Lin Xian is behaving atrociously in my heavenly court, and I'm punishing him to sweep for 100 years? If I let you bring him back, where will the heavenly court's face go? I'm afraid that the heavenly court will be the topic of discussion among the sects and the streets, not the eternal God sect. You've made a good plan, Ning Qi said indifferently. Jing Donghan's expression changed and his tone became stiff. Mysterious North Celestial Emperor, I went to a place before coming to the heavenly court. Do you want to know where it is? Where? Tell me. Ning Qi smiled. The Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom's imperial capital. It's guarded by the strongest of the 8 great ultimate gods, Heavenly Ultimate God, Jing Donghan said. Is it fun? How's the scenery? I've never been there before. Ning Qi asked. That place. Jing Donghan frowned. Mysterious North Celestial Emperor, do you really not understand what I'm saying? I don't understand. Why don't you explain it to me? Ning Qi smiled. I've visited Heavenly Ultimate God and planned to ask him to bring back my disciple. However, Senior Heavenly Ultimate God was busy and didn't come personally. However, Senior Heavenly Ultimate God is old friends with the Eternal God sect, so he gave me this. Jing Donghan took out a black jade slip with the word Skyless engraved on it. The moment the jade slip appeared, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly became heavy. Little Yu and Zhuo Ling simultaneously felt a pressure coming from the jade slip towards them. Chapter 40-34. Humph! A cold snort was heard. The aura that was aimed at little Yu and Yi Lingchen was instantly dispersed by the snort. Jing Donghan maintained his smile and looked at Ning Qi. Celestial Emperor Beixian, you should at least give face to Senior Divine Skyless, right? Not only was Divine Skyless revered in the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom, but none of the other 7 ultimate gods could compare to him. Even if the other 2 divine kingdoms were taken into account, Divine Skyless would be ranked in the top 3 among all the ultimate gods. Jing Donghan had heard that Divine Skyless had a grudge with Ning Qi and that the matter had ended unresolved. The Divine Giant Ghost had a good relationship with Ning Qi, which was why he had gone to the imperial capital of the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom to ask for the token from Divine Skyless residence. Although he said it casually, the token had cost the Eternal God sect a great deal of cultivation resources. It would have saved a lot of trouble if Lin Xian had been killed on the spot. I do have to give face to a senior like him. Ning Qi nodded with a smile. The Eternal God sect's 6th grade Divine Master breathed a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on his face. If that's the case, I'll bring my disciple back to the sect. But don't worry, Celestial Emperor Beixian, I'll definitely punish my disciple. Jing Donghan smiled and cupped his hands. You've misunderstood. Ning Qi smiled. I'll give face to Heavenless Hierarch and not kill you. Take Heavenless Hierarch's token and scram. The corner of little Yu-er's lips curled up. Based on her understanding of Ning Qi, it would be fine if Jing Donghan didn't bring out his backer, but once he did, there was no longer any possibility of resolving the matter. Jing Donghan was taken aback and his face darkened. The other party didn't even give face to Divine Skyless? Before coming to the Heavenly Court, he had been so calm because of the token, as if victory was already in his grasp. From his point of view, from the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom's supreme ultimate gods to the lowly ants, who would dare to disrespect Heavenless Ultimate God? Celestial Emperor Beixian, are you really that unreasonable? Jing Donghan forced a smile. Ning Qi's expression suddenly changed. A terrifying aura descended from the sky and directly pressed down on Jing Donghan's body. Jing Donghan let out a miserable howl. Both of his knees instantly ruptured, and his white bones pierced through his flesh and were exposed to the air. His body fell to the ground as a result. Who do you think you are to talk to me about the ways of the world? Ning Qi said coldly. With a gentle wave of his hand, the heavenless ultimate god's token flew from Jing Donghan's hand. Ning Qi crushed the token on the spot as soon as he held it. The heavenless ultimate god's power contained within the token could not be stopped and disappeared in Ning Qi's palm. Master! Lu Lingyu and the others let out an exclamation. However, they did not dare to act rashly. The person in front of them was a newly ascended hierarch expert of the heavenly star divine kingdom. Now that even their master had been easily suppressed, how would they dare to be presumptuous? You crushed heavenless hierarch's token? Jing Donghan looked at this scene in horror. The ominous premonition in his heart seemed to have come true. From the beginning to the end, the other party had never taken heavenless hierarch seriously, nor did he look at the eternal god sect differently because of the token. From the beginning, the other party had never intended to let him take Lin Xian away. Moreover, he had offended the other party again and again, causing the other party to directly suppress him. Thinking of this, Jing Donghan felt his hair stand on end, and his back was instantly soaked in sweat. So what if I crushed this token? Ning Qi smiled, slowly stood up from the chair, and walked toward Jing Donghan step by step. Jing Donghan knelt on the ground and looked at Ning Qi, who was constantly approaching him. Fear grew in his heart, and he immediately shouted shamelessly, "Heavenly Emperor Beixian, I was wrong." Lu Lingyu and the others trembled when they heard this. Outside the Lingshao Palace of the Golden Arches, Lin Xian, who had been paying special attention to the situation inside, felt her vision go dark and she almost fainted. Today, the eternal god sect might be destroyed in the hands of his master. You were wrong. Ning Qi stood in front of Jing Donghan and looked at him condescendingly. Do you know what you were wrong about? I was wrong to think that I was lucky and wanted to borrow Heavenless Hierarch's power to get my disciple back from Senior. Jing Donghan knelt on the ground. You still don't know what you were wrong about. Ning Qi shook his head and reached out to lightly pluck the void, as if he was plucking the strings of a zither. The next moment, everyone's eyes widened as they watched Jing Donghan's right arm fall from his shoulder and fall to the ground. But as soon as the severed limb fell to the ground, it inexplicably disappeared like rain falling into a desert. Senior? Jing Donghan was dumbfounded. For a 6th-grade godly realm warrior, the destruction of their physical body would also cause their cultivation to plummet. This arm represented at least 1/6 of his life's hard work. Master! Lu Lingyu and the others panicked when they saw this. If Jing Donghan was killed in the heavenly court today, the entire eternal god sect would probably fall apart overnight. Celestial Dharch Beixian, can you? Lu Lingyu gritted her teeth and finally decided to plead for Jing Donghan. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Ning Qi glanced at her. His terrifying aura made Lu Lingyu swallow the words in her mouth. When she came back to her senses and wanted to speak again, she found that she could not open her mouth no matter how hard she tried. Do you know what you were wrong about? Ning Qi continued to look at Jing Donghan and said with a faint smile. Say, Senior. Wrong answer. Ning Qi smiled and shook his head. A look of horror flashed in Jing Donghan's eyes. He found that his other arm was also broken. Just like before, it fell to the ground and instantly melted into nothingness. Do you know what you were wrong about? Ning Qi said with a smile. Jing Donghan only felt a chill rush into his body from the floor. If this continued, when he lost both his legs, wouldn't it be his head that would be next? I know. I shouldn't have come here today. I was really wrong, Jing Donghan hurriedly said. Then, he looked at Ning Qi nervously. Seeing that nothing had happened, he immediately let out a long sigh of relief. Correct answer. Wrong answer. What? Jing Donghan looked down subconsciously. His right leg had disappeared. At this moment, he had lost both arms and one right leg. Only his left leg was still kneeling on the floor. Such a scene caused infinite fear to surge in the hearts of Lu Lingyu and the others. With your brain, I don't think you can figure out what you were wrong about. Let me tell you. Ning Qi smiled and shook his head. Your mistake was that you were not respectful enough to little Yu and the others just now. You should know that compared to them, you are like a beggar in my eyes. Little Yu? Jing Donghan immediately looked at the two girls and suddenly felt that it was ridiculous. He had lost both arms and one right leg because he was not respectful enough to these two fifth-grade warriors. Chapter 40-35. Young Master is so nice to us. Both little Yu and Zhuo Ling felt sweet in their hearts, and their cheeks flushed red. Since Lin Xian has been so diligent, without any complaints, I won't kill you. Ning Qi looked at Jing Donghan indifferently. Thank you, senior. Thank you. Jing Donghan heaved a sigh of relief. Although he had lost 2 arms and 1 leg, which caused his strength to drop, as long as he could keep his life, he could regain his cultivation in the future. You can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. Go outside and kneel next to the city lord. Ning Qi continued. What? Jing Donghan's eyes flashed with shock. His face suddenly turned red, and he stammered, Say, senior, senior. What do you want to say? Ning Qi looked at Jing Donghan with a smile. Jing Donghan felt a chill run down his back, and he broke out in a cold sweat. He saw a murderous intent in the depths of Ning Qi's eyes. Jing Donghan immediately shut his mouth and did not dare to speak again. Lu Lingyu and the others were angry, but did not dare to speak. In the end, they watched Jing Donghan stagger out of the palace of the Golden Arches with his remaining leg. Master! Lin Xian's heart sank when she saw Jing Donghan's appearance. A bitter smile appeared on Jing Donghan's face as he transmitted his voice to Lin Xian. Master didn't take your advice to heart. Master was wrong. Then, Jing Donghan walked toward the city lord, while Ning Qi stood at the entrance of the Palace of the Golden Arches with little Yu and Zhuo Ling watching the scene. What is he going to do? The city lord saw Jing Donghan out of the corner of his eye and was slightly shocked. Jing Donghan's appearance showed that he must have been tortured. Now that he was walking toward him, could it be? Is he planning to kill me and let Jing Donghan do it? A trace of despair flashed in the city lord's eyes. In the beginning, he had been kneeling there and being watched like a monkey. That kind of humiliation made the city lord of the Hague City want to commit suicide. Unfortunately, he could not even commit suicide. However, the city lord of the Hague City was already used to kneeling. After a long time, no one was interested in looking at him. Even if someone passed by, they would only glance at him. At this time, he felt that as long as he could survive, he would be able to escape this place one day, and even take revenge one day. Very quickly, Jing Donghan walked to the Hague City Lord's side and knelt down under his horrified gaze. In the next moment, Jing Donghan felt a special aura land on his body. This aura was like shackles that imprisoned him. I see. The city lord of the Hague City suddenly understood, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. From today onwards, he would no longer be alone. Finally, there would be someone to face the wall and reflect with him. Sigh. Lin Xian sighed in her heart and secretly glanced at Ning Qi. She immediately picked up the broom and focused on sweeping the floor. As long as Jing Donghan didn't die, the Everlasting God sect would still have some foundation. As for the temporary humiliation, what did it matter? You can leave now. Ning Qi looked at Lu Lingyu and the others and said indifferently. Yes. No one dared to stay any longer. They lowered their heads and quickly left. They didn't dare to look at Jing Donghan or communicate with Lin Exan. After Lu Lingyu and the others left, Emperor Lu quietly appeared behind Ning Qi. Heavenly Emperor, after you crushed that jade slip, there seemed to be some kind of power that spread out and shrouded the surroundings. It didn't dissipate for a long time. Even with my divine ability, I couldn't disperse it. Emperor Lu said softly. That's the divine sense left behind by Divine Lord Skyless. This way, if anyone dares to destroy his jade slip, he will be able to locate them immediately. Ning Qi smiled. Pay attention during this time. Divine Lord Skyless might send someone over. Yes. Emperor Lu nodded. Another few days passed. From time to time, Ning Qi would take a look at the Tyli land. The rate of change was getting faster and faster. At the beginning, 3 or 4 places of change appeared every day. Now, there were at least dozens of places of change appearing every day. According to Ning Qi's estimation, in the future, there would likely be hundreds or even thousands of places of change appearing every day. By then, the territory of the Tyli land would probably be expanded countless times. I don't know how vast the territory will be after the final integration of the myriad world. It is likely that even 6-step cultivators will have to travel a long way to reach some places. Ning Qi sighed in his heart. Suddenly, his eyes moved slightly and his figure disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already outside the willow forest where Emperor Lu was. In the void, there were 3 peak advanced 6th-grade God Realm warriors. These 3 warriors from the realm of the gods wore black robes and wore indifferent expressions. Even when they saw Ning Qi suddenly appear, their hearts were as calm as an ancient well, without the slightest ripple. Are you the Heavenly Court's Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian? One of the God Realm warriors looked at Ning Qi indifferently and said. His voice was without the slightest emotion. Ning Qi didn't speak and just looked at the 3 of them. The atmosphere suddenly became a little silent. After a full 10 breaths, the God Realm warrior spoke again. Are you the Heavenly Court's Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian? This time, there was a hint of anger in his tone. I thought you were robots. Since you are normal people and can recognize me, and you can still be so calm, I guess you must be from an extraordinary background? Ning Qi smiled faintly. We are the divine servants who serve Divine Lord Skyless. The God Realm warrior said indifferently. The other 2 kept looking at Ning Qi without the slightest fear in their eyes. Not long ago, Hierarch Skyless ordered us to investigate this place. He wanted to see who was so bold as to destroy the Skyless medallion that was given to the ancient god sect. Celestial Emperor Bei Xian, how much do you know about this? The God Realm warrior said. You're talking about that black token, right? I crushed it. Ning Qi smiled. There was another few breaths of silence. The God Realm warrior said again, if that is the case, we know. After a pause, he continued, Divine Lord Skyless asked us to bring Jing Donghan back. Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian, bring him out. The 3 of us will wait here. Jing Donghan is currently kneeling in the Heavenly Court and reflecting on his mistake. If Divine Lord Skyless wants to see him, he may have to wait for about 100 years. Ning Qi smiled. This isn't a request, it's an order. Celestial Emperor Bei Xian, even if other gods meet godly heavenless, they have to act like juniors. Didn't godly giant ghost tell you that? The God Realm warrior frowned slightly. Ning Qi smiled and suddenly clenched his hand. Before the other 2 God Realm warriors could react, their bodies were crushed. Why do you insist on making me do this? Go back and tell Divine Lord Skyless to come here himself if you want to take Jing Donghan away. Ning Qi smiled faintly at the God's Realm warrior, who had a look of shock on his face. Chapter 40-36. How dare you kill a divine attendant? That realm of the gods warrior was stunned for a moment before he regained his composure. His face was filled with disbelief and his emotions were rich. Compared to before, he was like a completely different person. You're just a peak high-level rank 6. In my eyes, you're just an ant. Why shouldn't I kill you? Why are you so surprised? Ning-Chi chuckled. Do you know that even though you're a hierarch Heavenless can easily crush you with a flip of his hand? Xiao Chen was shocked. He had been a divine attendant for many years. He often saw Hierarch Giant Ghost, Hierarch Quicksand, and the other 5 hierarchs. When these hierarchs were in the divine palace, they were all very careful and well-behaved. They weren't even as carefree as these rank 6 God Realm warriors. That was why. They gradually looked down on the other ultimate gods apart from Wu Tian Ultimate God and slowly developed an aura that belonged solely to the Wu Tian Divine Servants. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of them, they could remain calm. But today, Ning-Chi's actions had broken the impression he had of Hierarch for so many years. Whether or not Hierarch Heavenless can crush me, he knows I know, but you don't. Whether or not I can crush you with a flip of my hand, I know, and you know. Ning-Chi smiled. Xiao Chen felt a slight chill on his back. He didn't know when, but his back was already soaked in cold sweat. Go, send a message back to the imperial capital. If Hierarch Heavenless really wants to see Jing Donghan, then come in person. Ning-Chi smiled. Xiao Chen was silent for a few breaths, then turned and left. As soon as he left, Ning-Chi's eyes turned serious. He looked in the direction Xiao Chen left. He wasn't looking at Xiao Chen, but at the imperial capital, which was very far away. Ning-Chi wasn't too afraid of hierarchs anymore. With the 9 inner hidden gates open, who could take a punch from him? But above hierarchs, there were still godly monarchs. There was one in the heavenly star divine nation, one in the setting sun divine nation, and one in the Octaterra divine nation. Including the Sea King of the Oceanic divine nation, there were still 4 people in this world who were stronger than him. In the eyes of these 4 godly monarchs, 7th step cultivators were no different from ants. At present, the myriad worlds were continuously merging, and sooner or later, the creation god realm would descend upon the divine clapnet in the form of a sovereign. It was unknown what the attitude of the 3 godly kings of the human race would be, but the Sea King of the sea race would probably stir up a storm. By then, no one in the Shenluo world would be able to stop him. Ding! Ning-Chi's gaze flickered. The sound of a system notification rang in his ears. Host's reward has been successfully generated. Do you want to receive it? This reward took so long to produce. I wonder what it will be. Ning-Chi was slightly taken aback. He did not accept it immediately. Instead, he checked the information of the reward with a thought. This was his reward for completing the system's mission and successfully obtaining the godhood. Logically speaking, its value should be at least above the 7th step. This is... Ning-Chi looked at the reward information and was speechless for a long time. System, is this reward really for me? Host's reward has been successfully generated. Do you want to receive it? The system beep sounded again. I seized the godhood and reached the 7th step, and you reward me with this? Ning-Chi shook his head and smiled bitterly. Receive. Boom. A bronze coffin suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the void. It then landed heavily on the ground with a loud sound. This bronze coffin was 10 feet long and extremely huge. Forget about Ning-Chi, it could probably hold hundreds of people in it. Was the system cursing him to die? Or was it wishing him a promotion and wealth? Ning-Chi fell into deep thought. System, let me ask you. What is the use of this bronze coffin? After a while, Ning-Chi asked. But the system did not give him any response. Ning-Chi could only stand on top of the coffin and rely on himself to determine the use of this bronze coffin. Ning-Chi's eyes suddenly moved. After looking at the bronze coffin up and down for dozens of times, he found that this coffin was somewhat similar to the coffin he saw in the void described by the Star Emperor. Could this be a bronze coffin specially used to store the corpse of a godly king? The system gave me this because it means that I have the chance to become a godly king, but at the same time, I might die in the godly king realm? Ning Qi frowned slightly. After thinking for a long time, he still could not get an answer. He could only use the simplest method to see if this bronze coffin was a worthless item. Open the 9 inner hidden gates. In an instant, the power flowing through Ning Qi's body reached its limit. Then, Ning Qi slammed his palm down on the bronze coffin. Boom! A terrifying wave of air swept out in all directions. But the aftershock only spread out for about 1,000 feet before it was stopped by Ning Qi. The bronze coffin forcefully withstood Ning Qi's full force attack, but the place that was hit was not damaged at all. The seemingly ordinary coffin, after withstanding Ning Qi's full force attack, was not damaged in the slightest. This was enough to prove that it was not an ordinary item. Even an ordinary treasure of chaos would be reduced to ashes under my palm. Just what material is it made of? It's so hard. If a godly king were to attack, I wonder if it would be able to withstand it. Ning Qi's eyes were filled with amazement. The slight dissatisfaction he felt towards the system immediately faded. Just based on the fact that even he could not damage this bronze coffin, it could not be said that the system had given him such unlucky trash. Perhaps there was some secret behind this bronze coffin, or perhaps the system had other intentions. Next, Ning Qi used simple and crude methods to constantly test the limits of the bronze coffin. Every inch of the coffin was hit by Ning Qi. Once he was sure that he could not destroy the bronze coffin, Ning Qi began the final step of his experiment. He prepared to open the bronze coffin. Logically speaking, it should be empty inside. Taking a deep breath, Ning Qi slammed his palm down on the coffin lid. The bronze coffin did not move, and neither did the coffin lid. I can't open it? Ning Qi's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, he grabbed the edge of the coffin with both hands. With a low grunt, all the power in his body surged into his arms. Rise! After a few breaths, the lid still did not move. Ning Qi could not help but wonder if there really was a corpse lying inside. Wait! Could the system have directly brought a coffin containing the corpse of a godly king from that incomparably treacherous void? Ning Qi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. If that was really the case, the system had gone too far this time. Previously, the system said that the reward was being generated. Could it be that the treacherous void is too far away from here, so it needs a certain amount of time to transport the coffin here? The more Ning Qi thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. His gaze towards the bronze coffin had already taken on a hint of seriousness. Chapter 40-37. Ning Qi looked at the bronze coffin for half an hour and finally decided to put it into the storage space for the time being. That was the only way to ensure absolute safety. If a divine king zombie suddenly popped out, not to mention the heavenly court, even the 3 deity nations and the oceanic nation would be implicated. After putting away the bronze coffin, Ning Qi returned to the heavenly court. A few days later, Shao Chen returned to the heavenly court after sending a message to the imperial capital. This time, he obediently went through the various levels of reporting and finally met Ning Qi in the Lingshao Palace of the Golden Arches. I am Shao Chen. Greetings, Celestial Arch Bei Xian. Shao Chen bowed respectfully. Ning Qi sized him up for a while before smiling. You're more like a human now. Shao Chen revealed a bitter smile. When he returned to the imperial capital this time, he reported everything. He thought Divine Lord Skyless would fly into a rage and come to the heavenly court to suppress Ning Qi. In the end, he received another order from Divine Lord Skyless, asking Ning Qi to go to the imperial capital. Shao Chen had no choice but to return to the heavenly court and put on a proper attitude. Only then could he hope to ask Ning Qi to go to the imperial capital. He had already failed the previous mission. If he could not invite Ningqi this time, he did not know how Divine Lord Skyless would punish him. Celestial Dharch Bei Xian, I was wrong the last time. Please forgive me. Shao Chun lowered his head. Tell me, why did Divine Lord Skyless send you here? Ningqi smiled. It's like this, Shao Chun said in a low voice. Divine Lord Skyless found out that we were rude the last time and felt that it was inappropriate, so he sent me to invite Celestial Dharch Bei Xian to the imperial capital. Coincidentally, the 7 divine palaces will also bring people to the imperial capital to participate in the Overlord competition. The divine venerables of the other 2 deity nations will also be there. Even the Oceanic nation will send people to participate. Overlord competition? Ningqi's eyes moved, and he said with a faint smile, What's the matter with this competition you mentioned? Reporting to Celestial Dharch Bei Xian, the Hegemon competition is a grand event jointly organized by the ultimate gods. There are a total of 3 rounds. The first round will be the rank 5 Divine Realm Warriors brought by the ultimate gods, the second round will be the rank 6 Divine Realm Warriors, and the third round will be the most exciting. Shao Chen's eyes lit up when he said this. In this round, all the ultimate gods will personally compete and learn from each other. The one who obtains first place in the Hegemon competition in the end will obtain a treasure jointly bestowed by the 4 great divine kings. The God King will also appear? Ningqi was slightly stunned. I won't. Shao Chun smiled embarrassedly and said, The various divine kings have not shown themselves for many years. At most, they only sent their subordinates to send a message. I understand. You can go back first. Ningqi smiled and nodded, then waved his hand. Shao Chun was stunned for a moment. He quickly said, Mysterious North Celestial Dharch, aren't you coming with me to the imperial capital? What? Are you here to invite me, or to order me around? Ningqi's face darkened slightly. Shao Chun was startled and quickly said, It's an invitation, an invitation. It's definitely not an order. Mysterious North Celestial Dharch, please don't misunderstand me. That's enough. You can go back. I have my own plans for when to go to the imperial capital. Ningqi nodded indifferently. All right then. Mysterious North Celestial Dharch, the rewards for the Hegemon competition are very generous. Shao Chun did not forget to tempt Ningqi before leaving. If Ningqi did not go to the imperial capital this time, he would have failed 2 missions in a row. What awaited him would probably be a very miserable fate. Not long after Shao Chun left, Ningqi instructed everyone to summon the Bull Demon King and the others to the Lingshao Palace of the Golden Arches. Hegemon competition? Goku's eyes lit up. However, when he heard that the minimum requirement was to be a 5th-step cultivator, his expression became very dejected. During this period of time in the creation divine territory, his cultivation level had advanced by leaps and bounds. However, there was still a long way to go before he could reach the 5th step. There was no hope of reaching the 5th step within the next 10 years. Although you can't participate this time, you can still go and watch the competition. You can see what level the 5th step and 6th step cultivators under the various divine venerables are at. Ningqi smiled faintly. Hearing that, Goku's dejection was swept away and he scratched his ears and cheeks excitedly. Monkey, you can watch this old bull's performance this time, the Bull Demon King said with a smile. Ningqi said, You won't have a chance to participate this time. What? The Bull Demon King was slightly startled and then hurriedly tried to explain. Ningqi waved his hand and pointed at little Ur and Zhuo Ling. Any one of them can beat you up. You don't have to fight for it. You can follow them and broaden your horizons. Young master, can we participate in the Hegemon competition? Little Ur and Zhuo Ling's faces were instantly filled with surprise. Of course you can. Ningqi looked at the 2 of them meaningfully. In the void behind the 2 of them, he seemed to be able to see 2 special auras, one white and one black, circulating. It was the aura of yin and yang. When the two of them entered the rebirth state, although they did not gain any new memories, and it was very likely that they were not as strong as they were in this life, they had a special background. This was something Ning Qi was sure of a long time ago. That's great. Little Yuer almost jumped in joy. At this moment, Limacho, who was sitting beside the two of them, raised her brows and glanced at Ning Qi. She had just returned from outside. Usually, she brought Hu Qingzi to various places in the divine realm and rarely stayed in the heavenly court. Although her aptitude was not as monstrous as little Yuer and Zuoling because of her special background and her status as the #1 cultivation maniac in the heavenly court, Limacho's strength had already reached the peak of the 5th step. Ning Qi estimated that it would not be long before she entered the Emperor realm. You have a share. Ning Qi smiled. The corners of Limacho's mouth curved up slightly as she nodded lightly. Hu Qingzi, who was standing behind her, was also very excited. This kind of large-scale competition was the best opportunity to become famous. Although Limacho was quite famous in some places, her fame was still limited to one place. On the other hand, the Overlord competition could expand her fame to the extent that everyone in the divine realm knew about her. Little Yuer, Zuoling and Limacho had 3 spots. As for the others, Ning Qi only planned to bring them to broaden their horizons. After that, it would be the 6th-step cultivators. Although the heavenly court did not lack 6th-step cultivators, in terms of strength, only the Qilin clan's venerables were at the top. However, they were Fang Lingming and the others' demon pets, so Ning Qi would not let them fight. In the end, there were no suitable candidates, so Ning Qi decided to leave them empty. He was more interested in the 3rd ultimate god battle. Killing an ultimate god, he did not know if the system would directly help him break through a great realm. After choosing the candidates, Ning Qi left the heavenly court with everyone and headed in the direction of the Forgotten River Prefecture. Forgotten River Prefecture. The giant ghost hierarch, who was in seclusion, immediately came out of seclusion. Not long after, he saw a group of black dots on the horizon. Chapter 4038. It's a pleasure to meet a friend from afar. The divine giant ghost floated in the air, a smile on his face. His voice was soft, but it echoed throughout the entire Forgotten River Prefecture. The rank 6 God Realm warriors under him looked up in shock in the direction of the divine giant ghost's mansion. For the divine giant ghost to personally come out to welcome him, he must be an ultimate god of the same level. They were curious as to which ultimate god would come to the Forgotten River Prefecture as a guest. Brother Giant Ghost is too polite. Ning Qi and the others arrived in a flash. Seeing the divine giant ghost come out to welcome them, Ning Qi smiled and cupped his hands. The divine giant ghost looked at the people behind Ning Qi, then smiled at Ning Qi. Brother Ning, you brought so many juniors this time. Don't tell me you're going to the imperial capital to participate in the supremacy competition? Since Hierarch Heavenless has spoken, it would be disrespectful of me to not go to the imperial capital. Ning Qi smiled. I'm here to go with you to the imperial capital. The divine giant ghost was slightly taken aback, then smiled and nodded. I'm also planning to go to the imperial capital soon. The divine giant ghost originally wanted to wait for a while, but Ning Qi happened to bring little Yuer and the others to the Forgotten River Prefecture. So, he brought his juniors and followed Ning Qi and the others to the imperial capital. The warship flew quickly between heaven and earth. It was as if a restrictive spell had been cast on it. In the blink of an eye, it could travel a great distance. The divine giant ghost had brought 5 peak rank 5 warriors and 5 peak rank 6 warriors with him. From time to time, they would look at little Yuer and the others with curious eyes, especially the Qilin demon pet they brought. I am Long Jiang, subordinate of the divine giant ghost. How should I address you, miss? A fair-skinned young man, who appeared to be quite young, led 4 other people as he slowly walked to the front of little Yu-Er and said with a chuckle, "Little Yu-Er." Little Yu-Er smiled. Bull Demon King and the others looked at Long Jiang and the others. They were probably 5th-step geniuses that the divine giant ghost had specially trained for the supremacy competition. Everyone, including Long Jiang, had a hint of arrogance on their faces. "So it's Miss Yu-Er." Long Jiang smiled and nodded. His gaze then fell on the Qilin behind her. Could this be Lady Yu-Er's demonic pet? The Qilin glanced at Long Jiang with disdain. She was indeed a demonic pet, but it was displeasing for a 5th-step cultivator to say such words. "No." Little Yu-Er lightly shook her head. "She's my friend." The Qilin's eyes lit up. He looked at the Longjiang base city proudly. Judging from the aura on these demonic beasts, they are comparable to grade 6 God Realm warriors. Are they planning to use these demonic beasts to increase their ranking in the Overlord competition? Longjiang's eyes turned gloomy. The high-level 6th grade God Realm warriors under Heavenless Hierarch's command exchanged glances and gloated at Longjiang's group. With their strength, they weren't afraid of the Qilins at all. Only Longjiang and the others would be affected. Although there were no written rules in the Overlord competition, everyone knew the unspoken rules. The contestants wouldn't use external forces and would only compete with their own cultivation base. Miss Yu-Er, the Celestial Emperor Bei Xian, has just become an ultimate god. I don't think he has participated in the Overlord competition before. I wonder if he knows that external forces aren't allowed in the Overlord competition. Long Jiang smiled. "You're so rude. Hurry up and leave. Don't disturb us." Sun Wukong glanced at the Longjiang base city coldly. He understood the hidden meaning in Longjiang's words. Grade 4 God Realm warrior. Longjiang glanced at Goku and frowned slightly. "Why are you interrupting?" "Hee." The 4 people around Longjiang chuckled. They looked at Goku with a hint of mockery in their eyes. In their eyes, Ningqi was just a new ultimate god and couldn't be compared to the giant ghost Divine Lord. They didn't know that Ningqi had once scared off Divine Lord Quicksand with a single punch. On top of that, they didn't see Ningqi with a grade 6 God Realm warrior. They only knew that the Heavenly Court wasn't as strong as they imagined. As grade 5 prodigies trained by the giant ghost Divine Lord, their status was definitely higher than little Yu-Er and the others. "Ha ha. Monkey," he said, "you're a demon pet." Bull Demon King couldn't help but laugh. At that moment, a bolt of purple lightning suddenly shot toward Longjiang. Longjiang's eyes flickered and he immediately punched. However, his fist failed to stop the purple lightning. Instead, the purple lightning bypassed his fist and struck Longjiang between his eyebrows. Longjiang groaned and took a few steps back. He wiped his forehead with his hand. It was covered in blood. "How dare you attack me here?" A woman behind Longjiang stepped forward and stared at Limacho coldly. Limacho's horsetail whisk turned into a bolt of lightning and hit Longjiang in the forehead. The 5-peak advanced 6th grade God Realm warriors who had been paying attention to the situation exchanged glances with each other. They all saw the shock in each other's eyes. Longjiang was the strongest grade 5 God Realm warrior in the entire Forgotten River Prefecture. Ever since the giant ghost Divine Lord trained him, he had never lost to someone of the same level. Longjiang was very likely to get a good ranking in the supremacy competition. But just now, he couldn't even stop Limacho's horsetail whisk. This meant that Limacho was even stronger than Longjiang. That Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian is indeed not to be underestimated. With a grade 5 God Realm warrior under his command, he will definitely make a name for himself in the supremacy competition. The few of them thought to themselves, "He's boasting shamelessly. I've already shown him mercy. Otherwise, you would be looking at a corpse now." Limacho said calmly, "Almighty Master." Hu Qingzi applauded. The woman wanted to say something, but Longjiang stepped forward and stopped her. Then, He looked at Limacho with a complicated expression. I didn't expect Heavenly Emperor Beixian to have a grade 5 God Realm warrior under his command. It seems like I've been a frog in the well. I hope I can meet you in the supremacy competition and have a fair fight with you. I hope so, Limacho said calmly. Hearing that, Longjiang turned and left with the angry woman and the other 3 grade 5 God Realm warriors. After that, the giant ghost divine lord's men and Ning Qi's men no longer had any contact. Although both sides were on the same warship, they were clearly divided into 2 factions. The giant ghost divine lord and Ning Qi watched the small conflict between the 2 sides. Brother Ning, Longjiang's strength is enough to make him at least in the top 10 of the grade 5 God Realm warriors in the supremacy competition. That lady seems to have a chance of winning. The giant ghost divine lord smiled bitterly. The lady he was referring to was Limacho. The strongest dragon slayer system, the strongest dragon slayer system. Chapter 4039. Her? That's indeed a possibility. Ning Qi glanced at Limacho and sighed softly. There was a time when Limacho's advancement speed even surpassed his own. You'll get an 8th grade Divine Dragon Pill if you rank first among the 5th grade Divine Dragon Pills. You'll ascend to 6th grade after consuming it. Moreover, the Divine Dragon Pill will cleanse your meridians and body, which will help you advance to the ultimate God realm in the future. The divine giant ghost said. Oh! Ning Qi's gaze flickered. Previously, Xiaoqian only said that the rewards were good. He did not say that the 4 divine kings would bestow a medicinal pill that could allow one to advance to rank 6. Was this immortal dragon pill that effective? You're saying that this divine dragon pill will be extremely helpful to one's advancement to the ultimate God realm. What do you mean by that? Ning Qi asked. Most of the ultimate gods in the world have swallowed the divine dragon pill. In our heavenly star divine kingdom, only ultimate god Wu Tian managed to advance to the ultimate God realm with his own strength. The rest of us, including me, were able to advance to the ultimate God realm because we won first place in the Overlord battle. The divine giant ghost said. After a pause, he looked at Ning Qi with a strange expression. I don't think you've swallowed an immortal dragon pill. It's no wonder a genius like you could scare off ultimate god Quicksand with just 1 punch after advancing to the ultimate God realm. Even a second tribulation ultimate god like me is no match for you. I thought you were a physical ascension sage, but now that I think about it, Heavenless Ultimate God is most likely on the same path as you. Ning Qi's thoughts moved slightly. He had the feeling that the immortal dragon pills that the divine giant ghost had mentioned had something to do with the essence of the Godnet world. You're telling me all this. Aren't you afraid that she'll get the first place? Ning Qi said with a faint smile. Giant ghost sighed. What's the point of being afraid? For so many years, it has been a long time since our heavenly star divine kingdom won a place in the Overlord competition. Instead, the Sunset Divine Kingdom, the Octaterra Divine Kingdom, and the Sea God Divine Kingdom often won first place. Ning Qi suddenly understood. No wonder the divine giant ghost wasn't upset about Limacho's victory over Longjiang. He hadn't been thinking about getting a good ranking in the first place. The top ranker in the rank 5 Immortal Dragon Pill will get a rank 8 Immortal Dragon Pill. Or even first among the 7s. Ning Qi asked with a curious look on his face. The first rank 6 will have a chance to enter the 4 Retributions Pagoda. There's a 1 in 100,000 chance to directly become an ultimate god. That said, most of the top 6th rankers in the past have never dared to enter the pagoda. Although they have a very high chance of becoming a god, if they fail, they'll end up with nothing left of them, and their divine souls destroyed. Yang Qi chuckled. A 1 in 100,000 chance is still high? Ning Qi said strangely, this probability should be considered extremely low, right? How could it be extremely low? For many years, the creation divine realm had produced countless peak 6th grade experts, but there were only a few ultimate gods. Before you, there had been countless people who had not reached the ultimate god realm. The last person who had a high chance of becoming an ultimate god should be Shui Gui from the Sea God Kingdom. However, his advancement ceremony was interrupted by you and he lost this great opportunity. It's extremely difficult for him to become an ultimate god with his own strength. The chances are basically zero. The divine giant ghost shook his head with a smile. After a pause, he continued, "You've been to the Sea God Kingdom, so you should know that the number of ultimate gods there far exceeds that of the 3 divine kingdoms combined, right?" "That's right." Ning Qi nodded. He thought back to the colossal behemoths that roamed the skies above the Sea God Kingdom. The Sea God Kingdom had 108 of them, and they were responsible for maintaining order within the kingdom. Perhaps that was only the tip of the iceberg. If you added in the various ocean folk and the experts from the Sea King's bloodline, the Sea God Kingdom had a frightening number of ultimate gods. Even if the 3 divine kingdoms were combined, they wouldn't have even a tenth as many as the Sea God Kingdom. Back then, the Sea King had relied on his own strength to contend against 3 great god kings. In the end, he had forced the 3 divine kingdoms to compromise and sign a non-aggression pact with the Sea Tribe. This was not only because of the Sea King's strength, but also because the Sea Divine Kingdom's overall strength was definitely at the top of the creation divine realm. Do you know why? The divine giant ghost smiled. A thought occurred to Ning Qi. Was it because of the ceremony? The beings hidden in the void that Blood Ghost used to summon in the end were very likely the ones that Star Emperor had seen in the void of the universe. It was highly likely that those beings were the corpses of god kings that had lost their minds and transformed into monsters. That's right. A very serious look could be seen in the giant ghost god's eyes. The ceremony in the Sea God Kingdom is a terrifying one. It's highly likely that the reason the Sea King is strong enough to fight 3 god kings is because of that ceremony. In the past, we humans sent countless spies into the Sea God Kingdom to try to learn how to activate the ceremony. You didn't succeed. Ning Qi's eyes flickered. Yes, we did. The divine giant ghost smiled. We paid a huge price to get the method to activate the ceremony. However, no matter how many times we tried, we were unable to activate it. Does that mean that only the ocean folk have the right to activate the ceremony? Ning Qi's eyes narrowed. If this guess was correct, then it could only be said that the unknown existence that the Sea God Kingdom was communicating with was very likely to have been a member of the Sea race. Everyone came from the same origin, so the Sea race could communicate with each other, but the human race could not. Yes, that's exactly how it is. That's why the 4 divine kingdoms are able to maintain their neutrality and not rashly start a war. That's because the human race's 3 divine kingdoms are especially afraid of this ceremony. The divine giant ghost nodded. Ning Qi felt that if he had the chance, he needed to pay a visit to that region of space once the changes of the world ended. At the same time, he needed to become a god king as soon as possible. Otherwise, there would always be a sense of crisis, as if a sharp sword was hanging above his head and could take his life at any time. A few days passed in which Ning Qi and the divine giant ghost continued to converse. Before long, Ning Qi felt a terrifying pressure weighing down on him, a pressure that caused his fleshly body to begin to fight back against it. The faces of little Yu and the rest turned slightly pale. The people of Longjiang Base City remained calm. This is the great heavenly star array. Don't try to resist it. In here, everyone's cultivation base will be suppressed. The divine giant ghost warned. In response, Ning Qi relaxed a bit. The pressure in the area wasn't as strong as it had been before, but at the same time, his cultivation base had been suppressed by 40 to 50%. Still looking for the most powerful dragon slaying system for free? Baidu. Speed Reading Pavilion. Speed reading without waiting. == Chapter 40. Eyes flashing with cold light, Ning Qi stopped suppressing his cultivation base and unleashed all of his power to fight back against the pressure around him. In the blink of an eye, his aura reached its peak, and the pressure around him grew dozens of times heavier. Like sharks that had smelled blood, they charged toward Ning Qi in a frenzy. Brother Ning. The divine giant ghost could sense that something was wrong with Ning Qi's aura, although it was only for a moment. We're in the imperial capital, right? Let's go. Ning Qi smiled. The divine giant ghost looked at Ning Qi's relaxed demeanor, and a bit of confusion flickered in his eyes. But in the end, he didn't ask any questions. The pressure was something only people could sense. Even as a divine being, he could only sense that something was wrong. What he didn't know was that the pressure around Ning Qi was so viscous that it was almost tangible. The gates of the Heavenstar God Kingdom were very grand, and in addition to the giant ghost God Emperor's battleship, there were other battleships going in and out of the city. In fact, Ning Qi didn't see a single cultivator entering or leaving the city on his own. Before, there had been a long line of ships lining up to enter the city, but as soon as the giant ghost God Emperor's battleship arrived, all of them parted ways. Without any formalities, the giant ghost God Emperor's battleship entered the imperial capital. The rules in the imperial capital are very strict, the divine giant ghost said. No one is allowed to enter or leave the city on their own. Anyone who wants to enter the imperial capital has to board a ship that's registered, so there's no need for inspection. But if someone on a ship causes trouble in the imperial capital, the ship's owner will be implicated. The divine giant ghost seemed to have noticed Ning Qi's confusion. After a pause, he looked curiously at Ning Qi. Brother Ning, have you really never been to the imperial capital before? That's right. It's my first time here. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. The imperial capital was huge, and the streets were wide enough for dozens of ships to travel side by side. The buildings on either side were so tall that they touched the clouds. After entering the imperial capital, the divine giant ghost didn't let anyone disembark. Instead, he steered the ship toward a certain location. In the imperial capital, only warriors from the god's realm who are at the advanced 6th rank and above are qualified to apply to drive a warship in certain areas. The rest of the people can only ride horses at most. The giant ghost divine venerable smiled at Ning Qi as he admired the surrounding scenery. Little Yuer and the rest also stood behind Ning Qi, looking curiously at the divine capital. This place was equivalent to the divine capital of the Sea God country, one of the top places in the Fortune divine realm. Along the way, they often saw rank 5 or rank 6 celestial realm warriors. All of a sudden, a battleship caught up to the giant ghost deity's side of the battlefield. The other battlefields had deliberately lowered their altitude and speed when they saw the divine giant ghost's sign. The only ones who dared to fly alongside the divine giant ghost's warship were ships of the same level as the divine giant ghost. Tiandu. The divine giant ghost's eyes flickered with a very serious gleam, as well as a bit of grimness. An acquaintance? Ning Qi smiled at the divine giant ghost. He's an acquaintance. Before I reached the hierarch realm, I was once a servant disciple under him. The divine giant ghost said calmly. Servant disciple? In other words, the divine giant ghost deity was far more experienced than the divine giant ghost deity. Ning Qi's eyes flickered. He could sense that there was some sort of grudge between the divine giant ghost and Tiandu. Even Long Jiang and the others were taken aback by the sight of the battleship. Why have you come to the divine capital ahead of time, giant ghost? Don't tell me you're completely confident in your disciple? A figure walked up to the deck and smiled at the giant ghost deity. He wore a black robe and his hands were as pale as death. Furthermore, each of his fingers had fingernails that were at least a foot long. These fingernails were black and translucent, curved, and gave off a very sinister feeling. He was very handsome, and had a smile that shone like the rising sun. It was a warm, friendly smile, and yet, hidden beneath that warm smile was a tempest that only Ning-Chi and the god of the giant ghost could sense. This guy is a bit of a contradiction, Ning-Chi thought to himself. Do I need to ask for your permission when I come to the divine capital, Tiandu? The divine giant ghost said coolly. Just then, a figure appeared next to divine giant ghost. It was none other than divine giant quicksand, whom Ning-Chi had met once before. As soon as he saw Ning-Chi, his face flickered, and his lips moved as he transmitted a few words to divine giant ghost. Divine giant ghost's expression didn't change at all. Chuckling, he said, "In any case, you and I used to be master and servant. It's a bit rude of you to come to the divine capital without giving me a heads up. You and I might be gods now, but I'm a third tribulation, and you're only a second. Logically speaking, you're my junior, aren't you?" A chuckle could be heard from behind divine giant ghost. It was one of the chosen disciples he and divine giant quicksand had brought to participate in the tournament. There's no need to talk about juniors or juniors. Perhaps one day my cultivation base will surpass yours. When that happens, will you kowtow to me? The divine giant ghost said with a cold laugh. Ai. Ingrate. Shaking his head, divine giant ghost looked at Ning-Chi. Are you the new god, Celestial Emperor Bei-Xian? That's right. Ning-Chi nodded indifferently. It was obvious that divine giant ghost and divine giant ghost were not on good terms, and he was with divine giant quicksand. Ning-Chi didn't want to be polite to him. Divine giant quicksand has mentioned you to me, and he's full of praise for you. You're just a first tribulation ultimate god, but your battle prowess is extraordinary. It'd be great if I could meet you in the tournament. I really want to spar with you, Hierarch Tiandu said with a smile. Although he didn't sound threatening, the way he looked at Ning-Chi made him feel like a hunter eyeing his prey. Everyone, including ultimate divinity Tiandu, thought that the two of them would just bicker. Therefore, he smiled and turned to leave after finishing his sentence. Ning-Chi chuckled. Why wait until the tournament if you want to spar? Isn't there a place in the divine capital for hierarch experts to spar? Divine giant ghost stiffened. He slowly turned around and looked at Ning-Chi with a faint smile. What did you just say? Calm down, brother Ning. Divine giant ghost has a lot of experience, and he has some tricks that not even I can handle. The divine giant ghost immediately transmitted. Ning-Chi smiled at him to show that he didn't need to worry, then turned to divine giant ghost. Didn't you want to spar? There's no need to wait for the tournament. Just set a time and place. I'll be waiting for you. Chapter 40-41. Godly Celestial Metropolis stared at Ning-Chi in shock, and then burst out laughing. You're just a brat who just reached the 7th rank and you're already working with godly giant ghost? Do you really think that two ultimate gods working together can defeat one ultimate god? Ha ha, although there are very few hierarch realm experts in this world, it doesn't mean that they are stronger in numbers. Hierarch Tiandu's laughter reverberated across the entire imperial capital. Not far away there were a few warships floating in the air. There seemed to be people laughing and watching the show. An unsightly expression appeared on Giant Ghost's face. What are you laughing at? A voice suddenly sounded. The smile on Ultimate God Tiandu's face disappeared as he looked at Ning-Chi coldly. How can a junior who has just become an ultimate god treat his senior like this? Don't you know any etiquette? Did he also take advantage of his seniority in front of you? Ning-Chi looked over at the divine giant ghost and smiled. After a few breaths of time passed, the giant ghost deity said, "He's even worse than that. He always thinks he's more senior than any other god. He even made a fool of himself a long time ago." What joke? Ning-Chi laughed. The strongest ultimate god in our star divine kingdom is ultimate god Wu Tian. However, Tiandu was already an ultimate god when ultimate god Wu Tian was still a grade 6 divine realm warrior. At that time, godly supreme heavenless had just advanced, and he tried to take advantage of his seniority. In the end, he was beaten up so badly that he didn't dare to show his face for decades. I heard that half of his face was smashed. From then on, Tiandu was extremely respectful whenever he saw godly supreme heavenless, as if he was his pet dog. The divine giant ghost said with a smile, "What? Is there such a thing? Ha ha ha, sure enough, those who take advantage of their seniority don't end up well." Ningqi laughed. Little Yu and the others all burst out laughing. However, the people giant ghost had brought with him, Long Jiang and the others, kept their heads bowed, not daring to get involved in the bickering. "Bitch, what are you laughing at? Do you think you can interrupt a conversation between ultimate gods?" Hierarch Tiandu suddenly looked at little Yu and shouted. Li Macho's eyes turned cold. "Can't a woman interrupt when a man is talking? Is this your principle? A mere rank 6 dares to be so presumptuous." The smile on Hierarch Tiandu's face disappeared without a trace as he glared at Li Macho with murderous intent. At the same time, a terrifying aura swept out from his body and turned into a sharp sword that was pointed at Li Macho. Bang! Ningqi suddenly stretched out his hand and punched into the void. The terrifying aura of Hierarch Tiandu immediately disappeared. Ningqi looked at ultimate god Tiandu coldly. "As an ultimate god, you're not even the slightest bit shrewd. Looks like you've been living a comfortable life for too long. You don't have the bearing of a senior at all. Wouldn't you be a joke to others?" Ultimate god Tiandu laughed when he saw Ningqi breaking his secret attack with just one punch. "You really have some skills. No wonder a new ultimate god is so arrogant. Did you really ask me to have a duel with you? With so many people watching, you can't go back on your word. Whoever regrets is a puppy." Ningqi laughed. Pausing for a moment, he looked at little Yu and Li Macho. "When we're sparring, I'll chop off his head for you to kick as a ball, okay?" "Sure." Little Yu smiled happily. The corner of Li Macho's mouth curled up slightly as she looked at ultimate god Tiandu with a sneer in her eyes. Long Jiang and the others raised their heads in disbelief and looked at Ningqi. They could not understand why a new ultimate god dared to go against ultimate god Tiandu, who was a veteran. Wasn't he being too arrogant? "Ha ha ha, interesting. Are you the famous North Mystic Celestial Emperor?" A burst of hearty laughter was heard. 4 warships suddenly appeared. The laughter came from one of them. Although the other 3 did not move, Ningqi guessed there should be an ultimate god sitting in them. 4 ultimate gods, Giant Ghost, Tiandu, and Lu Sha. 7 out of the 8 ultimate gods of Star Divine Kingdom were there. Only ultimate god Tiandu had not shown up. "Wild Lion Divine Master, you came just in time. Why don't you be the witness for my duel with this junior today?" Ultimate god Tiandu laughed. A figure slowly walked out from the warship where the laughter came from. Ningqi's eyes twitched slightly when he saw the figure. It was not a human but a lion. A white lion several times the size of an ordinary lion. Its aura was no weaker than Tiandu's. It was also a 3 tribulation ultimate god. A figure also walked out from the other 3 warship. The 3 of them looked at Ningqi and ultimate god Tiandu before finally stopping at Ningqi. "I saw everything," one of them said coolly. "As a new godly cultivator, you shouldn't speak to your seniors like that. Giant Ghost, don't tell me you didn't teach him any of the rules?" The one who spoke was the only female ultimate god present. Giant Ghost's expression became a little unnatural when he saw her. He cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, ultimate god Lian Xing, The other party nodded. Ningqi could sense a flicker of fear in godly Giant Ghost's eyes as he looked at godly Lian Xing. However, godly Giant Ghost simply frowned and said, "Apologize to godly Celestial Du immediately, and we'll let bygones be bygones. The hegemon competition is about to begin, and the infighting is going to be a joke. Who do you think you are? Should I apologize just because you want me to? Ningqi looked at ultimate god Lian Xing with a frown. Hierarch Lian Xing was slightly startled, as if she had not expected Ningqi to say such arrogant words to her. Just as she was about to react, the White Lion said, "All right, stop arguing. I think this little brother also wants to fight with Tiandu, so let them exchange a few blows. After all, no discord, no concord." Tiandu only became a little more obedient after he fought with Ultimate God Heavenless. Ultimate God Tiandu's expression changed slightly when he heard that, and an almost imperceptible trace of anger flashed in the depths of his eyes. However, he kept a smile on his face and said, "That's right. I was indeed too frivolous at that time. Only later did I realize how powerful Ultimate God Heavenless was." Ultimate God Lian Xing frowned and looked at Mad Lion a few times. Finally, her gaze fell on Ultimate God Tiandu. "Tiandu, don't hold back. Otherwise, when a junior becomes a hierarch in the future, he will always look down on us seniors." "All right." Ultimate God Tiandu smiled and nodded. Giant Ghost's expression was a little unsightly. He secretly sent a voice transmission to Ningqi. "I heard that Ultimate God Lian Xing and Ultimate God Heavenless have a close relationship. You should find a chance to apologize to her. Even if they are lovers, I won't show mercy if they fight." Ningqi smiled and looked at Ultimate God Lian Xing. She happened to look back at him, then snorted coldly and looked away. Chapter 40-42. The warships of Hierarch Celestial Metropolis and the others flew side by side in the direction of the arena, with Giant Ghost's warship at the rear. It was obvious that Giant Ghost was the last of the 8 divine kings of the Heaven Star Divine Kingdom. "Young master, you must smash Ultimate God Tiandu's head later." Little Ur Anzua Ling cheered for Ningqi. Goku and Bull Demon King looked at each other and smiled strangely. They were looking forward to seeing Ningqi smash Ultimate God Tiandu's head. They seemed to be very confident in Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian. What's going on? Isn't he a new Ultimate God? How can he be stronger than our Giant Ghost Divine Kingdom? Not even the exalted Giant Ghost would dare to offend Hierarch Celestial Metropolis so easily. The group of rank 6 God Domain warriors that Hierarch Giant Ghost had brought with him discussed the matter in private. On the other hand, Long Jiang and the others felt that Little Ur and Li Macho were too bold. Not only did they dare to talk back to Hierarch Tiandu, but they were also looking down on him. "Sigh, I hope they won't drag us into this. If Lord Giant Ghost is dragged into this, we won't be able to escape either." Long Jiang sighed inwardly. At the same time, Hierarch Lian Xing had boarded Ultimate God Tiandu's warship, while Hierarch Quicksand stood respectfully behind them. It showed that there was a clear hierarchy among the Ultimate God. "Tiandu, I heard that the Lori Divine Kingdom has 3 new Ultimate Gods, while the Octaterra Divine Kingdom has 5 new Ultimate God. One of them is extremely powerful and has defeated and experienced 3 Tribulation Ultimate God as soon as he advanced. He's privately known as one of the Ultimate Gods with the highest chance of advancing to Divine King." Hierarch Lian Xing said faintly. "What? There's such a thing?" Ultimate God Tiandu was slightly shocked. Not only was he shocked by the number of new Ultimate Gods in the 2 Holy Kingdoms, but he was also shocked by the Ultimate God who had the highest chance of becoming a Divine King, according to Ultimate God Lian Xing. Among the 4 great Divine Kingdoms of the Fortune Divine Realm, there were only 6 people who were known as the existence closest to a God King. One of them was in the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom. He was the leader of the 8 great Ultimate Gods, Ultimate God Wu Tian. Then, the Sunset Divine Kingdom and Ba Huang Divine Kingdom each had 1, and the Sea God Kingdom had 3. Now, there was another existence like that in the Ba Huang Divine Kingdom? He defeated a three-tribulation divine master as soon as he advanced. Could it be that this person is a physical sage? Hierarch Tiandu said in a low voice. I'm not sure about that. But we'll probably meet him in the Overlord competition this time. It's a good opportunity to test his strength. How confident are you in dealing with the new Celestial Emperor Bei Xian? Hierarch Lian Xing smiled faintly. Ultimate God Tiandu turned around and glanced at the battleship behind him. He then smiled at Ultimate God Lian Xing and said, I'm 130% sure. These new ultimate gods always think they're the chosen ones and don't respect their seniors. I'll let them know the true difference between a three-tribulation ultimate god and a one-tribulation ultimate god. Divinity Tiandu, this kid's cultivation base is a little strange. You should be careful. Hierarch Quicksand suddenly spoke in a low voice. Strange? Hierarch Tiandu smiled and shook his head. I've seen it clearly just now. His strength is very ordinary. He's just a one-tribulation ultimate god. Hierarch Quicksand subconsciously glanced at Hierarch Lian Xing. His lips moved, but he did not say anything in the end. He did not want to tell those ultimate gods that he had been scared away by Ning Qi's fist. His fist had yet to land on me, but the aura was extremely terrifying. I suspect I'd definitely die if it landed on me. But then again, could it be a trick? Hierarch Quicksand suddenly had a trace of doubt. In any case, he would soon be able to see Ning Qi's true strength with his own eyes. In his opinion, Hierarch Tiandu had at least an 80% chance of defeating Ning Qi. The divine capital of Star Divine Kingdom was very magnificent. Every building gave off a solemn and dignified feeling. The battleship soon arrived at the divine capital of Star Divine Kingdom's arena. To Ning Qi's surprise, the arena looked almost the same as the Sea God Kingdom. If he was not sure that he was on land, he would have thought that he had arrived at the divine capital of Sea God Kingdom. Honorable ultimate gods, is there anything I can do for you? A middle-aged cultivator hurriedly flew up and appeared in front of the group of ultimate gods. He carefully cupped his hands and asked. It was very rare for 7 to 8 ultimate gods to come to the arena together. The middle-aged cultivator even suspected that his arena had accidentally offended someone. I'm going to fight with a new junior. Go and arrange it. I'll take 80% of the ticket revenue and 20% is yours. Hierarch Tiandu said to the other party. The other party was slightly stunned. The Overlord battle had not started yet. Why was Hierarch Tiandu going to fight someone? His gaze subconsciously swept across the group of ultimate gods and finally landed on Ning Qi. Ning Qi was the only unfamiliar face and must be the new junior mentioned by Hierarch Tiandu. Tiandu, you're taking advantage of your seniority again. That's not good. Why don't I take 80% of the ticket revenue? Ning Qi smiled faintly. Tiandu frowned slightly. Before he could speak, Hierarch Lian Xing interrupted. The ticket revenue usually goes to the winner. If you can defeat Hierarch Tiandu, you'll be entitled to the ticket revenue. So that's how it is. Then the ticket revenue is mine. Ning Qi smiled. The middle-aged cultivator was taken aback. This new ultimate god was indeed a little arrogant. No wonder he wanted to fight with Hierarch Tiandu the moment he arrived in the imperial capital. A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. Hierarch Tiandu smiled faintly. The new generation excels the old. The corner of Ning Qi's mouth curled up. Hierarch Tiandu's face darkened. Ning Qi, giant ghost, and the others found a high platform to sit on. When the other godly nobles saw this, they found their own platforms and sat down. Soon, they were divided into 3 camps. Ning Qi and godly giant ghost, godly berserk lion and 2 other godly nobles, and godly Lian Xing and heavenly capital and quicksand. The middle-aged cultivator was clearly the steward of the arena. As soon as he received the instructions, he immediately passed down a series of orders. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the news of the battle between Hierarch Tiandu and Ningqi had spread throughout the imperial capital. Countless people rushed to the scene. Even in the imperial capital, it was rare to see a battle between ultimate gods. This was especially true for the God Realm warriors who had been at the peak of the 6th rank for many years. As soon as they heard the news, they immediately rushed to the arena. They wanted to see if they could learn anything from this battle and use it to break through the shackles of the 6th rank and enter the 7th rank. Brother Ning, there are more and more people here. How confident are you? Giant Ghost secretly transmitted his voice to Ningqi. Ningqi smiled and gestured with his hand. When the divine Giant Ghost saw Ningqi stretch out a finger, his face went slack. 10%? Only 10%. Chapter 40-43. Brother Ning, why do you only have a 10% chance of winning? Why don't we call off this battle? If worse comes to worst, I'll look for Ultimate God Skyless and ask him to settle Ultimate God Tiandu down. Giant Ghost Divine Master transmitted his voice. Ningqi smiled and did not reply. Knowing that he wouldn't be able to dissuade Ningqi, Deity Giant Ghost sighed. Of course, Deity Quicksand and Deity Celestial could see his reaction. Ultimate God Tiandu, it seems that Junior isn't very confident. Otherwise, Giant Ghost wouldn't have such an expression. Ultimate God Quicksand transmitted his voice. Ultimate God Tiandu smiled. The more people who come to the battle, the better. I believe Ultimate God Wu Tian will also send someone to watch the battle. He might even come in person. As long as I suppress this kid, won't the juniors who ascend to the Ultimate God realm be respectful to us seniors in the future? The arena that could seat up to 1 million people had nearly filled half of the seats in a short period of time. It was estimated that the arena would be full in another hour or so. The battle between Ningqi and Tiandu would also begin at that time. Wild Lion Divine Master, I see that you're very optimistic about this, Junior. On another high platform, a short Ultimate God shrouded in a black robe said faintly, Ultimate God Shaka, this Junior isn't simple. Even Quicksand is no match for him. A disciple of mine happened to pass by the Hague City a while ago. He saw with his own eyes that Quicksand was scared away by this kid's punch. He's just an Ultimate God and he already has such skills. Compared to Ultimate God Tiandu, I'm naturally more optimistic about him. He's indeed quite capable. I heard that there are a few new ultimate gods like him in the Luri Divine Kingdom and Octaterra Divine Kingdom. I wonder if the world has changed. There are more and more new ultimate gods these years. Ultimate God Shaka, who was only half the height of an average person, smiled faintly. Another gloomy-looking ultimate god, who looked to be in his 20s, sneered after hearing Ultimate God Shaka's word. Even if Ultimate God Tiandu is annoying, a new ultimate god should be taught a lesson for being so disrespectful to his seniors. Old senior? Jiuquang, it's not right for you to have such thoughts. Even Ultimate God Skyless isn't as experienced as you, but how many moves can you withstand against Ultimate God Skyless? You're not even as strong as the giant ghost divinity, and he only became a god later than you. Wild Lion God Venerable smiled and shook his head. When Hierarch Ninewild heard that, he immediately fell silent. Only, his complexion was somewhat livid. Unknowingly, the number of seats in the arena had already reached 70%. Suddenly, an incomparably huge warship slowly sailed over. It was 4 or 5 times larger than any of the other godly battleships. As soon as Divine Giant Ghost saw it, he shot to his feet and sent a voice transmission to Ningqi. That's Divine Skyless battleship. I can't believe he's here to watch your fight with Divine Skydu. The Berserk Lion Divine Venerate and the others also stood up and looked at the huge warship with a hint of awe in their eyes. Ningqi was curious after noticing that. What kind of means did Heavenless Ultimate God have to make these ultimate gods so respectful? A huge shadow loomed over half of the arena. Divine Skyless, does your heavenly star Divine Nation's arena look like the one in the Ocean God Nation? It's no different from the one I saw when I was a guest in the Ocean God Nation. You jest, Divine Buddha Illumination. Why can't the Ocean God Nation copy our heavenly star Divine Nation? Divine Buddha Illumination? Could it be that Divine Skyless battleship was carrying other ultimate gods from the Sunset Divine Nation? Brother Ning, Divine Buddha Illumination is the #1 ultimate god in the Sunset Divine Nation. His position in the Sunset Divine Nation is similar to Divine Skyless in our Heavenly Star Divine Nation. If he's on Divine Skyless battleship, then the other ultimate gods from the Sunset Divine Nation must be on it as well. Divine Giant Ghost sent a voice transmission. It didn't take long for Divine Giant Ghost's guess to be confirmed. A middle-aged man with a dignified appearance stepped out into the air and slowly walked toward the stage. Walking next to him was a very good-looking man. If Ning Qi hadn't seen the man's Adam's apple, he might have mistaken him for a woman. Behind them was a line of ultimate gods. There were 10 of them. The Sunset Divine Nation has 11 ultimate gods now? Divine Giant Ghost was slightly taken aback. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Including Ning Qi, Star Divine Kingdom's number of ultimate gods had increased from 8 to 9. On the other hand, Sunset Divine Kingdom was the same as Star Divine Kingdom with only 8 ultimate gods. However, there were 11 ultimate gods participating in the Overlord tournament. If not for the fact that the Sunset Divine Nation had purposely concealed their strength, they might have had a few level 6 ultimate gods successfully break through to the ultimate god realm. The dignified middle-aged man was Divine Skyless. After he led Divine Buddha Illumination and the others onto the stage, Divine Berserk Lion, Divine Lian Xing, and the others went to greet them. The ultimate gods from the Heavenly Star Divine Nation seemed to be old acquaintances with the Sunset Divine Nation's ultimate gods. They laughed and chatted for a bit. One of the Sunset Divine Nation's ultimate gods even introduced the 3 newly ascended ultimate gods to the crowd. The 3 of them were very respectful toward the old seniors in front of them. Sometimes there was even a hint of restraint in their expressions that made Divine Skyless and the others very satisfied, and they could not help but praise them. Divine Giant Ghost and Ning Qi also went up onto the stage, but they stood at the back. Divine Skyless suddenly glanced at Ning Qi and smiled at the Sunset Divine Nation's side. The newly ascended ultimate gods from your Sunset Divine Nation are very polite, unlike our Heavenly Star Divine Nation. We only have one new ultimate god after so many years, but we're not very polite to old folks like us. Sigh. When everyone heard this, their gazes fell on Ning Qi. Hierarch Lian Xing was standing beside Hierarch Skyless. When the two of them were chatting, their expressions were quite intimate. After hearing Hierarch Skyless' words, Hierarch Lian Xing smiled and said, "It's right for the younger generation to be driven. Teach him a lesson later and he will understand this principle." Don't worry, Divine Lian Xing teaching the younger generation is the responsibility of us old seniors, Divine Skyless said with a smile. Divine Giant Ghost's face darkened. It was as if he was recalling an unbearable memory. Once upon a time, he had been humiliated by Divine Skyless in a similar situation. In the end, a huge battle had broken out between them. Divine Skyless had won that battle. After the battle, Divine Giant Ghost had to recuperate for dozens of years before he could catch his breath. "Little brother, you're the North Mystic Celestial Emperor?" Heavenless Divine Lord chuckled as he looked at Ning Qi. Yes. Ning Qi looked at Divine Skyless with a smile. He felt that Divine Skyless' strength was about the same as King Qilin's true body. He wondered how many moves it would take to defeat him. Was he still looking for the Dragon Slayer system for free? Baidu directly searched. Speed Reading Pavilion. Read without waiting. Smiley face. Chapter 40-44. You're young and promising. Heavenless Ultimate God smiled. Speaking of young and promising, Ultimate God Wu Tian, the Octaterra Divine Kingdom, has come with ill intentions this time. They have 5 new Ultimate Gods and one of them is able to defeat a 3-tribulation Ultimate God. Should we join forces to fight against them in the upcoming Overlord battle? Shining Divine God Foe suddenly said. The Ultimate Gods from both the Divine Kingdom and the Sunset Divine Kingdom looked solemn when they heard that. The topic was easily shifted by Shining Divine God Foe to Octaterra Divine Kingdom. The battle between Ning Qi and Ultimate God Tiandu was no longer important. Shining Divine God Foe, we'll talk about joining forces later. I think the battle between Celestial Emperor Bei Xian and Ultimate God Tiandu is almost here. Isn't it about time? Heavenless Ultimate God reminded him with a smile after chatting for a while. Indeed. Shining Divine God Foe nodded slightly. Then we'll go back and take a seat. Berserk Lion Divine God smiled and returned to his high platform with Sha Jia and Jiuquang. Divine Lord Lian Xing stayed beside Heavenless Ultimate God, while Divine Lord Quicksand returned to the high platform alone. As the Supremacy Tournament was held in the Imperial Capital, 70 to 80% of the top 100 sects from the 3 Divine Kingdoms had come. They were all sitting in the arena and there were many faces from the Sea Clan. Each of them exuded an extremely strong aura as they were all ultimate gods. Dad, little sister, hurry up. The battle is about to start. I didn't expect to witness a duel between 2 ultimate gods during our visit to the Overlord tournament. I heard that one of the ultimate gods had just advanced. I wonder which level 6 Divine Realm warrior he was. Chu Feng finally brought Chu Tianxian and Chu Sun to their seats a dozen or so breaths before the start of the battle. Apart from the 3 of them, Chu Sun was accompanied by a young man. He was Chu Sun's cultivation partner, whom the Chu clan had recently arranged. Sun heir, I should be able to become Divine Lord Quicksand's disciple after some time. I'll have the opportunity to participate in the next Overlord battle. The young man smiled at Chu Sun after sitting down. Chu Sun frowned slightly and said calmly, "The competition for supremacy is not that simple. You'll only stand a chance if you're a rare peak rank 5. You're only at the beginning of rank 5. There's still a long way to go before you reach the peak of rank 5. Hearing that, Yi Kang's expression changed slightly. He forced a smile and said, "With my talent, it won't take long for me to reach peak rank 5. What are you guys talking about?" TSK. There were at least thousands of rank SAXS sitting in the arena. As expected of our Star Divine Kingdom's Imperial Capital, there are actually so many level 6 experts. How many rank SIXS are there in our big Tianding city? Chu Feng was somewhat excited. Wherever he looked, he could already see many Grade 6 God Realm warriors, and even more Grade 5 God Realm warriors. In his heart, he felt proud of the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom's strength. Chu Tianxian smiled faintly and shook his head. Most of the powerhouses you see are from other divine nations. Because of the supremacy competition, they came to our imperial capital in advance. From the moment I entered to the moment I sat down, I've already seen more than 300 Sea Clan rank 6. Big brother, look over there. Chu Sun was secretly looking at the platforms where the various divine venerables were seated. Suddenly, her gaze paused for a moment. Then, she was immediately attracted by a figure in the crowd. Gradually, a look of astonishment appeared on her face. Chu Tianxian and the other 2 subconsciously looked in the direction Chu Sun was pointing at. Then, Yi Kang realized that Chu Tianxian and Chu Feng's expressions had also changed, as if they had seen a ghost. What's going on? Yi Kang didn't understand. Don't make a sound. Chu Sun glared at him impatiently, then turned to Chu Feng and Chu Tianxian. Are we seeing things? Yes, I don't think so. It really does look like Brother Wu. But that's the platform where the divine venerable giant ghost is, so it can't be Brother Wu, right? Chu Feng said cautiously. Maybe it's just a resemblance. Chu Tianxian pretended to be calm and nodded, but his heart was beating uncontrollably. Yi Kong didn't understand what the three were talking about, but he saw that Chu Sun's eyes were fixed on the platform. He felt a little unhappy and his face darkened. Not long after, Divine Skyless' voice rang out. Today is the sparring match between the newly ascended Divine Venerable of the Heavenly Star Divine Nation, Celestial Dharch Bei Xian, and Divine Skyless Tiandu. If the two of you are ready, you may enter the ring now. Divine Skyless, I'm already ready. Divine Skyless Tiandu laughed heartily and flew into the air. He flew into the ring and stood in the void. Young master, you can do it! Little Yuer and Chu Feng immediately cheered Ning Qi on. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. He flew into the air and stood in the void, facing Divine Skyless Tiandu. The distance between them was less than 100 feet. Chu Tianxian and the others could see it even more clearly now. It really is Brother Wu. There can't be two people who look so alike in this world, right? Chu Feng was dumbfounded. He has become an ultimate divine venerable? Chu Sun's mouth slowly opened, her face filled with shock. She could still vaguely remember the first time she met Ning Qi. At that time, Ning Qi was only a rank 5 celestial warrior. Our Chu family is going to prosper. Chu Tianxuan's voice trembled with excitement. Yi Kong finally understood. He did not expect Chu Tianxian and the others to know a new ultimate divine venerable. Divine Skyless Tiandu looked at Ning Qi with a smile. 10 moves. Within 10 moves, I'll let you know how big the gap between a new ultimate divine venerable and a 3 tribulation divine venerable is. Although Divine Skyless Tiandu's voice was not loud, it was clearly heard by everyone present. Everyone had a strange look on their faces. Especially those rank 6 celestial warriors. They did not know how the cultivation base of an ultimate divine venerable was differentiated. However, Divine Skyless Tiandu boasted that he would defeat another ultimate divine venerable within 10 moves. That made them subconsciously think that Divine Skyless Tiandu must be extremely powerful among the ultimate divine venerable. Otherwise, how could he dare to boast in front of so many ultimate divine venerable? Brother Ning only has a 10% chance of defeating Divine Skyless Tiandu in 10 moves. I just hope his injuries aren't too serious. Otherwise, he won't be able to participate in the hegemon competition. Divine Giant Ghost's expression was very serious. 10 moves, huh? Ning Qi chuckled. An old senior like you needs 10 moves to suppress me? You're being a bit too cautious. How many moves do you think are appropriate? Divine Skyless Tiandu's eyes narrowed. 1 move. Ning Qi chuckled. You've been a divine venerable for years, and I've only just broken through. You should be able to suppress me with 1 move. As you wish. Divine Skyless Tiandu cackled like a madman. His aura surged, and the protective barrier around the arena was activated. Golden magical symbols began to appear in the air. Still looking for the free Dragon Slayer system? Baidu search. Speed reading pavilion. No waiting. =. Chapter 40-45. So this is the power of an ultimate god. The rank 6 divine realm warriors in the arena had a look of yearning in their eyes. If it were them, they would not be able to activate the protective shield of the Imperial Capital Arena even if they risked their lives. It was said that the formation was personally set up by the Heavenly Star Divine King and could not be broken even with all the ultimate gods combined. Hierarch Tiandu only needed a thought to cause such a phenomenon to appear on the protective barrier. Although the crowd could not feel how terrifying Hierarch Tiandu's aura was, they could still make a guess based on what they saw. Hierarch Tiandu's strength should have improved over the years. When Hierarch Lian Xing becomes a four-tribulation ultimate god, it should be his turn. Giant Ghost Divine King's eyes were solemn. The ultimate gods from the Sunset Divine Kingdom were all staring at Ultimate God Tiandu. They wanted to know Ultimate God Tiandu's true strength from this battle. I hope the new Ultimate God from the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom can last a few moves. When we meet Hierarch Tiandu in the Overlord competition, we'll have a better understanding of his strength. A few divine kings from the Sunset Divine Kingdom secretly communicated with each other. Hierarch Quicksand stood on the high platform with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Last time in the Hague City, he had lost all his faith. If he had not taken action to control the direction of the situation, the incident would have spread far and wide. If Hierarch Tiandu could seriously injure his opponent this time, Hierarch Quicksand was ready to find a chance to wash away his shame. Is a three-tribulation ultimate god different from what you imagined? Hierarch Tiandu looked at Ningqi with a faint smile. He could feel that she was already shivering. Are you trying to prove your Tao with your mouth? Why are you so long-winded? Ningqi frowned. Damn it, go to hell. The smile on Hierarch Tiandu's face disappeared. A strong murderous intent burst out from the depths of his eyes as he pointed at Ningqi. In the next moment, an incomparably terrifying aura condensed into a sharp sword and shot toward Ningqi like lightning. If it was a normal battle, and they were in the same divine kingdom, ultimate gods would not kill each other. However, Hierarch Tiandu's attack contained all his power to kill Ningqi in an instant. Even if the other ultimate gods reacted, they would not be able to stop him in time. He's going for the kill. Exalted Buddha Illuminating Divinity suddenly laughed. Divine Venerate's skyless expression did not change. He continued to sit calmly on the high platform and said indifferently, "Of course not. Let's wait and see." Everyone's expression immediately became extremely strange. Heavenless Hierarch actually allowed Hierarch Tiandu to kill his own hierarch. The ultimate gods on the Sunset Divine Kingdom's side suddenly realized the battle was not as simple as they had imagined. The newly promoted ultimate gods from the Divine Kingdom looked at each other and became even more vigilant. They had just become ultimate gods and had to be respectful to their seniors. Otherwise, they might end up like Ningqi one day. The corners of Hierarch Lian Xing's lips curled up slightly. She purposely adjusted her sitting position, as if she wanted to sit more comfortably to welcome the next scene. Is Supreme Divinity Tiandu crazy? How dare you kill him in front of Hierarch Skyless? Without even thinking about it, Giant Ghost rose to his feet. However, he immediately noticed that there was something wrong with Heavenless Ultimate God's attitude. When Ultimate God Tiandu tried to kill him, Ultimate God Wu Tian was the first to stop him. However, Heavenless Ultimate God didn't do anything this time? Could it be, "Don't be afraid, Senior Giant Ghost. Young Master won't lose"? Little Yu giggled. Giant Ghost was just about to say something when he suddenly turned his head to look at the arena. Just as Hierarch Tiandu's attack was about to land on Ningqi moved. In the eyes of the audience, all they saw was a single punch. It was an ordinary punch, but it had completely shattered Hierarch Tiandu's attack. Then, the punch arrived in front of Hierarch Tiandu like a hot knife through butter. It hit him squarely in the face. Bam! The golden patterns on the barrier grew more and more obvious. Clearly, the exchange just now had unleashed a tremendous amount of energy. The terrifying energy instantly vaporized Hierarch Tiandu's head. His headless corpse immediately fell to the ground. Ningqi reached out and grabbed Hierarch Tiandu's corpse, then hovered in the air. In the arena, countless astonished gazes fell on Ningqi. After a moment of silence, an incomparably noisy wave of noise instantly erupted. How could Hierarch Tiandu be killed in one move? What's going on? This is incredible. Isn't this newly ascended ultimate god's technique a little too terrifying? Countless experts from the top 100 sects looked at Ningqi in bewilderment. Gradually, there was a deep sense of awe in their eyes. On the other hand, many of the grade 6 Sea clan from the Poseidon Kingdom frowned and looked at Ning-Chi with a hint of suspicion in their eyes. After a few breaths, a member of the Oceanic tribe suddenly trembled. He recognized who Ning-Chi was. How could it be him? He's actually an ultimate god? That member of the Oceanic tribe turned pale. He then secretly transmitted his voice to the Oceanic tribe next to him. Not long after, the Oceanic tribe sitting in the arena knew who Ning-Chi was. He was the human race god realm warrior who had slaughtered hundreds of Tier 6 members of the Sea clan and captured Blood Ghost to the Sea God Kingdom, saving every single one of them. Young master, why did you smash his head? Did you want to kick him around like a ball? Little Yu sighed. Sister Yu it's okay. We'll have more chances in the future. Zhuoling smiled. Giant Ghost Hierarch was stunned. At that moment, he finally realized what Ning-Chi's gesture meant. It did not mean that he had a 10% chance of winning, but one move. He killed a 3 Tribulation Ultimate God with one move? This kind of technique. Giant Ghost Hierarch was both surprised and delighted. Hierarch Quicksand's face was ashen. At that moment, he was sure that Ning-Chi was not trying to scare him. The power of that punch was enough to blow him up. The group of Grade 6 and Grade 5 experts standing behind Hierarch Quicksand turned pale. Beads of cold sweat kept dripping down their cheek. They were the Sky Prides that Hierarch Tian-Du had brought to participate in the Overlord competition. Now, they had to watch as Hierarch Tian-Du's head was smashed by Ning-Chi. After the Overlord competition, wouldn't they lose Hierarch Tian-Du's support? What could they do if their enemies came knocking on their door in the future? While everyone was still in shock, Hierarch Heavenless and Hierarch Lian Xing didn't do anything. They just looked at Ning-Chi with a hint of surprise in their eyes. In the next moment, Hierarch Tian-Du's headless corpse suddenly moved. A brand new head slowly grew out in front of everyone. Alright, the competition is over. You win. Hierarch Lian Xing stood up and said to Ning-Chi, "Still looking for the most powerful Dragon Slayer system for free?" Baidu directly searched. Speed reading pavilion. No waiting. == Chapter 4046. The battle was over? Everyone looked at Hierarch Tian-Du, who had somehow regrown his head, and then at Hierarch Lian Xing. Realization dawned on them. Hierarch Skyless had been so calm because he knew Hierarch Tian-Du would not die so easily. He could even regrow his head. That was a rare skill among Hierarch gods. A look of shock could be seen on the giant ghost god's face. In his opinion, if he were in Yang Qi's shoes, he would be dead for sure. It was impossible for him to regrow his head like Hierarch Tian-Du had done. That skill was probably beyond the Hierarch realm. Before becoming an Hierarch, one's life form was different. Once one reached the Hierarch realm, their life form would change completely. That realm placed a lot more emphasis on one's physical body than the 6th grade. Just like the old saying, a rich man should not sit under the eaves. Usually, Hierarch gods would not let their opponents hurt their physical body. Even the slightest injury would take a lot of time and effort to recover. He had once been injured by Hierarch Tian-Du and had to recuperate for a long time. The Hierarch gods from the Sunset Divine Nation were also shocked by Tian-Du's skill. He can regrow his head? What kind of skill is that? Scary. If all the Hierarch gods from the Star Divine Nation have such skills, why haven't I heard of it before? What's the point of fighting? How are we a match for a monster like that? Only Hierarch Buddha remained calm and unperturbed. He was not even surprised that Tian-Du could regrow his head. A long time ago, Tian-Du got his hands on a secret treasure. It can change the sky and change the sun. It's very effective. Heavenless Hierarch smiled faintly. Hearing that, Kwang Shi and the others' doubts disappeared. That made sense. Regrowing a head with a secret treasure was more acceptable than regrowing one's head with one's own skill. No wonder you're so arrogant. With your methods, you do have the qualifications to be arrogant. However, the reason why I lost to you this time around is because I didn't understand your strength well enough. If I had known that your fleshly body was this strong, I wouldn't have let you get close to me. Hierarch Tian-du wiped the mucus off his face and looked at Ning-Chi. Let me go. Didn't you hear what Hierarch Lian-Xing said? I've lost this battle, you've won. Then, he glanced at Hierarch Quicksand from the corner of his eyes. Hierarch Quicksand had just recovered from his shock when he happened to see Hierarch Tian-du's gaze on him. His heart could not help but jump a few times. Oh no, this guy is holding a grudge against me. He thinks that I deliberately concealed this kid's strength and tricked him into going out to die. Hierarch Quicksand was a little nervous. He secretly regretted not letting Hierarch Tian-du die like that. Now that he had offended Hierarch Tian-du for no reason, he knew Hierarch Tian-du's temperament very well. Celestial Arch Bei-Xian, let go of ultimate divinity Tian-du. The Overlord competition is about to begin. Our star divine nation should not fight among ourselves, lest we become a laughing stock. When Hierarch Lian-Xing saw that Ning-Chi was still holding on to Tian-du, she could not help but frown slightly. Hierarch Lian-Xing, are you joking? How did the battle end just like that? Isn't Supreme Divinity Tian-du fine? Ning-Chi glanced at Tian-du in his hand and smiled at Hierarch Lian-Xing. Everyone was slightly stunned. The ultimate gods on the Sunset Divine Nation's side looked at each other with a hint of schadenfreude in their eyes. It's best to blow things up a little more. Otherwise, we won't know that Supreme Divinity Tian-du has the decapitation rebirth technique. If we meet in the Overlord competition, even I might be killed by him. A Tribulation 3 Ultimate God on the Sunset Divine Nation's side chuckled. A newly advanced Ultimate God next to him quickly said, "You're right. Internal strife in the Star Divine Nation is very beneficial to the Sunset Divine Nation. Fortunately, our Sunset Divine Nation's newly advanced Ultimate Gods are as sensible as you. If there's someone as stubborn as him, I'm afraid this old body of mine would have been smashed to pieces." That Tribulation 3 Ultimate God said with a faint smile. When Ning-Chi rejected Hierarch Lian-Xing, Ultimate Divinity Tian-du, who was being held in his hand, was stunned. He did not expect Ning-Chi to not end the battle. What are you going to do? Kill me in front of Ultimate Divinity Tian-du? Huh. Ultimate Divinity Tian-du stared at Ning-Chi and said viciously. Before he could finish his sentence, everyone heard a loud bang as Ultimate Divinity Tian-du's newly reborn head was once again smashed by Ning-Chi. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. Ultimate Divinity Tian-du once again turned into a headless corpse. You talk a lot of nonsense. Let's see how many times you can be reborn. Ning-Chi smiled faintly. The battle arena once again became extremely quiet. Whether it was the 4 Divine Nations Grade 6 experts or the Ultimate Gods present, none of them had expected Ning-Chi to attack Ultimate Divinity Tian-du so decisively, even though Hierarch Lian-Xing had already announced the end of the battle. You. Hierarch Lian-Xing's expression suddenly changed. The next moment, her figure suddenly moved and immediately disappeared on the spot. When she reappeared, she was already not far away from Ning-Chi. I don't know what despicable means you used to win this battle, but I've already said that the battle is over. If you don't stop, don't blame me for interfering. My strength is much stronger than Ultimate Divinity Tian-du. Do you want to try? Hierarch Lian-Xing said coldly. The heavenless Ultimate God's expression changed for a few seconds the moment she moved, but he quickly returned to normal. However, he kept his eyes on Ning-Chi with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Hierarch Lian-Xing, this isn't fair. Tian-du can kill me, but I can't kill him? What kind of rule is this? Can you tell me? Ning-Chi smiled faintly. My words are the rules to you. Put him down. Put him down, Hierarch Lian Xing said coldly. What if I don't? Ning Qi smiled. Then you. Forget it, I'll make the first move. Off you go. Ning Qi didn't wait for Hierarch Lian Xing to finish speaking as he flew over and kicked her in the chest. His terrifying speed and power made Hierarch Lian Xing feel as though she had entered someone else's domain. She couldn't react at all and was sent flying by the kick. Hierarch Lian Xing vaguely heard several of her sternum shatter. Hierarch Lian Xing subconsciously looked down and saw her collapsed chest. Her vision turned black and she almost fainted. Hierarch Tiandu grew another head. This time, he happened to see Hierarch Lian Xing being kicked away by Ning Qi. Hierarch Tiandu's face was much paler than before. He did not know if it was due to the lack of blood circulation or other reasons. Before Hierarch Tiandu could react, he saw a fist continuously enlarging in front of him. Wait! Bang! Hierarch Tiandu's head exploded again. Chapter 40-47. It was the third time Ultimate God Tiandu's head exploded. This time, his headless body trembled for a few breaths after losing its head. However, that was not what shocked everyone. It was Ning Qi who sent Divine Lord Lian Xing flying with a kick. It was common knowledge that Ultimate God Wu Tian was the strongest in Star Divine Kingdom. He was also the only Four Tribulation Ultimate God, followed by Kuang Shi, and Lian Xing Tiandu was slightly weaker than both of them, followed by Sha Jia, Jiu Kuang, Giant Ghost, and Lu Sha. A newbie who had just become an ultimate god had defeated Tiandu and sent Divine Lord Lian Xing flying with a single move. Such strength was enough for Ultimate God Wu Tian and Divine Illumination God to take seriously. The rest of the ultimate gods looked at Ning Qi with a hint of fear in their eyes. Wu Tian looks like he's the same as you, a physical ascension sage. Divine Illumination God said with a smile. Is that so? Ultimate God Wu Tian smiled and did not comment further. With this kid, that newbie from Octaterra Divine Kingdom finally has a worthy opponent. I'm so envious of all of you. It's been many years since our Sunset Divine Kingdom had such a genius. Divine Illumination God smiled faintly. Ultimate God Wu Tian smiled faintly and did not answer Divine Illumination God. Instead, he stood up and said to Ning Qi, Celestial Emperor Bei Xian, enough is enough. I believe Ultimate God Tiandu won't dare to cause you trouble anymore. If you insist on killing someone of the same level in the Imperial capital, the Divine King won't allow it even if I don't intervene. I just want to know how many times his head can be reborn. Ning Qi grinned at Ultimate God Wu Tian. As he spoke, Ultimate God Tiandu grew a new head. However, the process was slower this time and his face was paler than before. Don't. Ultimate God Tiandu looked at Ning Qi in panic as soon as his head appeared. However, the only response he got was the ever-enlarging fist. Bang! Ultimate God Tiandu's head exploded for the fourth time. 4 times. I wonder if Ultimate God Tiandu still has the ability to regenerate his head. Even Ultimate God Wu Tian can't stop him. I'm afraid this newly ascended Ultimate God will surpass Lian Xing and Kuang Shi in the future. He will become the #1 person in our Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom. Just now I used my connections to buy some information about the new godly ascension. He founded a new organization in Giant Ghost's territory called the Heavenly Court. A newly established force? Wouldn't there be 1,000 things waiting to be done? If we join them now, we might be put in an important position. In the arena, countless rank SIXS and rank 5s stared blankly at Ning Qi, who was standing in the void with Venerable Divinity Tiandu's body in one hand. Their eyes flashed with awe, fear, and shock. At the same time, information about Ning Qi was constantly being spread. Wild Lion Deity, I finally know why you think so highly of him, Sharja said softly. He exchanged glances with Jiuquang, and they both saw the shock in each other's eyes. Sending Lian Xing flying with a kick meant that the other party's strength was most likely above Quang Shi's. With such strength, they indeed could not be viewed as a newcomer. Thinking about it this way, Ning Qi's previous words were not so arrogant, and even a little humble. I might have offended Supreme Divinity Lian Xing. Divine Venerable Quicksand's expression was dull. That day's battle was because of him. If he had not deliberately hinted to Supreme Divinity Tiandu, the two sides might not have reached this stage. On the other hand, Divine Lian Xing had been sent flying by Ning Qi in front of countless God's domain warriors because of this match. Setting aside her injuries, she had already lost all her face. Father, this voice and temperament, it's definitely Brother Wu. Chu Feng's body was slightly trembling from excitement. At that moment, Chu Sun and Chu Tianxian had also confirmed that the new ultimate god of the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom was definitely Ning Qi. Yikong watched from the side as Chu Sun looked at Ning Qi with a strange light in her eyes. He subconsciously clenched his fists as a nameless fire burned in his heart. However, the other party was an ultimate god, a terrifying ultimate god who had crushed Tiandu and Lian Xing, which filled his heart with a sense of helplessness. Ultimate Divinity Wu Tian looked at Ning Qi quietly and did not make a move. Supreme Divinity Lian Xing, who was kicked away by Ning Qi, had also flown back to his side. Her chest seemed to have recovered, but in fact she had suffered a serious internal injury which caused her face to be a little pale. At that moment she realized that she was no match for Ning Qi at all. Apart from Supreme Divinity Wu Tian and Fo Zhao, no one else could suppress Ning Qi, so she did not rush forward. Ultimate Divinity Wu Tian, save me! Ultimate Divinity Tiandu, who had grown another head, no longer begged for mercy from Ning Qi. Instead, he shouted at Supreme Divinity Wu Tian. As soon as he finished speaking, his head was smashed again. It was the 5th time. Ultimate Divinity Tiandu's head had been smashed for the 5th time. Everyone had mixed feelings. On one hand, they were shocked by Ultimate Divinity Tiandu's methods, but on the other hand, they were even more shocked by Ning Qi's methods. Not long after, Hierarch Tiandu once again grew ahead. This time, it took him 10 minutes to finish a cup of tea. When his head was completely grown, Ning Qi once again punched it into pieces. The 6th time, half an hour later. The 7th time, 2 hours later. The 8th time. This time, it took Hierarch Tiandu 4 hours to grow a head that was much smaller than before. It was only half the size of a normal head, and the top of the head was pointy. It looked very deformed. Ultimate Divinity Tiandu immediately let out a shrill shriek like a mouse. Divine King! Just when Ning Qi was about to smash his head again, he suddenly noticed a terrifying aura descending from the sky and shrouding the entire arena. Although this aura did not specifically lock onto Ning Qi felt a sense of awe and majesty from it. Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian, the Divine King just sent me a message to tell you to let Ultimate Divinity Tiandu go. If his head is smashed again, he'll die for good. Ultimate Divinity Wu Tian said calmly. So this is your last head. Ning Qi looked at Ultimate Divinity Tiandu with a half-smile. His eyes were filled with fear. He did not even dare to look Ning Qi in the eye. Since the Divine King is pleading for you, then you can live today. Ning Qi chuckled and immediately let go of Ultimate Divinity Tiandu's neck. Seeing this, Ultimate Divinity Tiandu flew to the platform where Ultimate Divinity Tiandu and Lian Xing were. He stood behind them and looked at Ning Qi with a face full of fear. If that's the case, then this battle is over, right? I declare Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian the winner. Ultimate Divinity Tiandu smiled. Ning Qi returned to the platform and said to the two girls, "His head is too strange. If there's a chance next time, I'll chop it off and let you kick it a few times." His voice was not loud, but it was loud enough to spread throughout the arena. While everyone was shocked, they also looked at little Yu and Lian Xing curiously, trying to guess their relationship with Ning Qi. Ultimate divinity Tiandu, on the other hand, clenched his fists and lowered his head in silence. Still looking for the most powerful dragon slayer system for free? Baidu search. Speed reading pavilion. Read without waiting. =. Chapter 40-48. Seeing Hierarch Celestial Do's reaction, Giant Ghost couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Thinking back to the time when he had been humiliated by Hierarch Celestial Do, this was a great relief. It's a pity that His Excellency Divine King has spoken. Otherwise, given Brother Ning's temper, he would have smashed Celestial Do's last head. But that's fine. Losing the head rebirth is a huge blow to Celestial Do's strength. Furthermore, he seems to be seriously injured. If I meet him in the Overlord competition, I'll have a chance to get revenge. The Divine Giant Ghost thought to himself. After the battle, Hierarch Skyless left with Hierarch Buddha Illumination, Hierarch Lian Xing, Hierarch Celestial Do, Hierarch Quicksand, and the others. The manager of the arena immediately found Ning Qi and handed over 80% of the ticket revenue to Ning Qi. 800 million God Realm Stones. The Bull Demon King immediately calculated the number of God Realm Stones he saw, and the final result was 8 billion God Realm Stones. To be able to earn so much money from a single battle made Bull Demon King's heart itch. Celestial Emperor Beixian, let's find a chance to get together before the Overlord competition. Hierarch Berserk Lion brought Sha Jia and Jiuquang to Ning Qi with a smile. Sure, as long as Hierarch Berserk Lion is free. Ning Qi smiled and nodded. After a few more words, Hierarch Berserk Lion left with his people, while Ning Qi followed Giant Ghost Divine King to a bustling building in the imperial capital. This Zephyr Pavilion is very famous in the imperial capital. No matter what Brother Ning wants, you can find it here. Ordinary rank 6 God Realm warriors aren't qualified to enter, but I have a courtyard here that I reserve all year round. There are many rooms inside. If Brother Ning doesn't mind, you can stay here with me. Giant Ghost Divine King smiled. Of course I don't mind. Ning Qi smiled. The Zephyr Pavilion was very lively. Whether it was the manservants or the maids, all of them were very good-looking. From Ning Qi's point of view, it was like a high-class club. No matter what the customer wanted, as long as they could afford it, the Zephyr Pavilion would satisfy them. Many of the rank 6 warriors stood off to the side as soon as they saw the Divine Giant Ghost and Ning Qi, waiting respectfully for Ning Qi and the others to pass. Young master, the spirit Qi here is 100 times more abundant than outside. If we continue to stay here, it won't take long for us to advance to the 6th stage. A look of surprise appeared on little Yu Er's face. Limacho also looked around, a trace of astonishment on her face. What the little girl said is correct. No matter what price you pay in Wind Whistle Tower, it is expensive. But there are people who are willing to do anything to get in. This is all because of this. There is an array formation laid down by Divinity Skyless here. It is extremely helpful to warriors of the realm of the gods who are at the 6th grade and below. The Divine Giant Ghost smiled faintly. Behind him, the people of Longjiang Bay City became excited as soon as they entered the Zephyr Tower. This time, they would be able to stay here for a period of time. Before the Overlord competition began, they would be able to consolidate their cultivation. The Zephyr Pavilion was huge, and the courtyard that the Divine Giant Ghost had booked was right in the middle of it. It was a very secluded area, and the courtyards in the vicinity were most likely prepared for the Divine Giant Ghost. Ning Qi even sensed a few familiar auras. It was very likely that Hierarch Lian Xing and the others were also staying here. Not long after everyone settled down, the Divine Giant Ghost came looking for Ning Qi. Brother Ning, the godly sovereigns of the Octaterra Divine Kingdom have arrived. Divinity Skyless has ordered us to go welcome them. The divine giant ghost said. I won't be going. You go ahead. Ning-Chi smiled and waved his hand. The divine giant ghost nodded and left the room. Before long, a commotion could be heard in front of the courtyard. Ning-Chi's expression darkened. By the time he walked out of the courtyard, little Yu-Er and the others were already standing there. Divinity Skyless, we came all the way here. You can't expect us to stay in the courtyard of a grade 6 divine realm warrior, can you? The one who spoke was a woman dressed in animal hide. She was pretty, but her eyes were a little worn. Her aura was no weaker than that of Divinity Skyless and Divinity Illumination. Behind her was a young man dressed in the same animal hide. Judging from his aura, he had just become a godly sovereign not long ago. However, when he looked at Hierarch Berserk Lion and the others, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit and a hint of provocation. Behind the woman were a dozen godly sovereigns dressed in animal hide. Each of them had a dozen or so geniuses with them. There were at least 100 or 200 of them. Young Divinity Phoenix, who asked your Octaterra Divine Kingdom to come so late? If you came early, you would have a place to stay. Divinity Illumination chuckled. The woman glanced at him with a frown, then turned to Divinity Skyless. Skyless, this isn't the first time we've met. What do you say? Sighing, Godly Heavenless said, the competition is being held in the Heavenstar God Kingdom, so I really should be the host. How about this? Smiling, he looked over at Godly Giant Ghost. Why don't you give me your courtyard? Then where will Celestial Emperor Beishian and I stay? Giant Ghost Sovereign asked in surprise. Zephyr Tower is so big. Doesn't it matter where they stay? Why can't we make room for the godly sovereigns of the Octaterra Divine Kingdom who came all the way here? Divinity Lian Xing said coldly. This courtyard. The young Divinity Phoenix looked it up and down, then said reluctantly, it's not the center of Zephyr Tower, but it's not bad. I'll take it. When Longjiang and the others saw what was happening, it was obvious to them that Hierarch Heavenless was taking advantage of the situation to suppress Giant Ghost, and that Ning-Chi had something to do with it. First come, first served, Yang-Chi said. Since the divine Giant Ghost was the one who reserved this courtyard, how could he just give it up? Ning-Chi smiled and walked through the crowd to stand next to Giant Ghost Sovereign. After looking the young Divinity Phoenix up and down, his eyes came to rest on Divinity Skyless. Giant Ghost Sovereign breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Ning-Chi. Celestial Emperor Beishian, there's no other way. How about this? Let us have this courtyard. You and Giant Ghost Sovereign can stay with me. What do you say? Divinity Skyless said with a smile. Why don't you ask Divinity Skyless to let us have the courtyard? I don't like the feeling of living under someone else's roof. Ning-Chi smiled and shook his head. Divinity Skyless' expression flickered. He had indeed reserved a courtyard with Divinity Quicksand. But asking him to let them have the courtyard? If word got out, he would become a laughingstock among the godly sovereigns. Divinity Skyless was injured and needs to rest. It's not convenient for him to let us have the courtyard. Celestial Emperor Beishian, you should know that I own Zephyr Tower, right? Divinity Skyless said with a smile. If you don't want to let the godly sovereigns of the Octaterra Divine Kingdom stay, then you and Giant Ghost Sovereign can forget about staying in Zephyr Tower. Divinity Lian Xing threatened. Chapter 40-49. If Hierarch Skyless' threat was more subtle, then Hierarch Lian Xing's was more direct. Hierarch Fazio immediately shut his mouth. Hierarch Phoenix also sensed the hostility between Hierarch Lian Xing and Ning-Chi. Her eyes showed a hint of curiosity. She took a few glances at Ning-Chi and realized he looked very unfamiliar. He should be a new ultimate god from the Star Divine Kingdom. But why would a new ultimate god become enemies with Hierarch Skyless and Hierarch Lian Xing? Not to mention that Hierarch Skylus was the strongest person below Divine King in the Star Divine Kingdom. Hierarch Lianxing had also survived 3 lightning tribulations and could easily suppress a new ultimate god. I'll give you a chance. Take back what you said. Ningqi smiled. Take back what I said? Hierarch Lianxing's eyes revealed a trace of mockery. I'm just speaking the truth. If the world says that my heavenly star divine nation doesn't have manners because of you and that we can't even properly entertain hierarchs from other nations during the supremacy competition, can you bear the responsibility? What responsibility? We're already going to fall out during the Overlord competition. What's the point of pretending now? You're already a hierarch realm cultivator and you're still so hypocritical. Hierarch Lianxing, your cultivation isn't high enough. Ningqi smiled. Hierarch Lianxing's face turned green and white. She finally looked at Hierarch Skylus with a hint of anger in her eyes. The Heavenless Hierarch smiled at her and looked at Ningqi. Let's cut to the chase. I'll give you 2 choices. Give up your courtyard and live with me, or give up your courtyard and live outside the Zephyr Tower. Choose one. Hierarch Skylus, this is too unfair. Hierarch Giant Ghost's eyes flashed with anger. Hierarch Heaven Do gloated at Ningqi and Giant Ghost's misfortune and breathed a sigh of relief. Although he lost to Ningqi, it also caused Ningqi and Hierarch Skylus to be on bad terms. It was a blessing in disguise. Hierarch Skylus would be on his side if he and Ningqi had any conflicts in the future. I choose 3. I give up the courtyard and live outside. During the Overlord competition, I'll kill you first, then Lianxing, then Heavenly Do, and then Lu Sha. Ningqi smiled. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Sucking in a breath of cold air, Giant Ghost sent a voice transmission to Yang Qi. Brother Ning, you have to endure. You can't simply say such things. Otherwise, Heavenless Hierarch will definitely target you during the Overlord competition. The smile in Divine Venerable Feng Chu's eyes deepened. She did not choose to speak at a time like this. Instead, she silently watched the scene unfold before her. She did not expect the ultimate gods on the Star Divine Kingdom's side to be at odds with each other over a yard. It was a pleasant surprise for the young Divine Phoenix. How dare you? Venerable Divine Lianxing glared at Ningqi. Hierarch Tiandu trembled subconsciously, while Lu Sha turned pale. During the Supremacy Tournament, even God Kings could not interfere. This was a rule set by the 4 God Kings. If any God King dared to interfere, the Sea King would definitely not remain silent. This was a terrifying existence that could single-handedly beat the other 3 God Kings to the point where they could only lower their heads and sign a contract. Are you planning to ambush our Divine Kingdom's ultimate gods during the Overlord battle? Heavenless Hierarch looked at Ningqi with a faint smile. In the end, the smile on his face gradually faded as a stern look appeared in his eyes. Do you know how rebellious your words are? Now you're talking about your own people? Heavenless Hierarch, ever since you failed to send someone to the heavenly courts, we've become enemies. So don't pretend to be supportive of the younger generation. You might be smiling on the outside, but you don't know how to curse me in your heart. Ningqi sneered. Also, don't try to change the topic. I'm not going to kill the Star Divine Kingdom's ultimate gods. I'm going to kill you, Ultimate God Lianxing, Ultimate God Tiandu, and Ultimate God Quicksand. I don't like the 4 of you, so I'll definitely kill you in the Overlord competition. If there were still people who doubted Ningqi's words just now, everyone was basically sure that Ningqi was very serious as he had directly shed all pretense of cordiality with Heavenless Hierarch. Even if Ningqi did not kill them during the Overlord competition, the ultimate gods led by Heavenless Hierarch would not let Ningqi off easily. Everyone at the scene had a rough idea of the battle between ultimate gods. Heavenly Emperor Beixian, even if you've defeated Tiandu and ultimate god Lianxing, you're still no match for Heavenless Hierarch. I think it's better for you to admit your mistake. Don't let the other kingdoms laugh at you, one of the ultimate gods said slowly. Wild Lion Deity's face revealed a trace of astonishment as he slowly turned his head to look behind him. The one who spoke was ultimate god Shaga. Shaga, he didn't see you as his target. Why did you speak up? Why did you get involved in this mess for no reason? Wild Lion transmitted his voice with a serious expression. Shaga did not look at him. Instead, he quietly looked at Ningqi as if waiting for a reply. You're just a two-tribulation ultimate god. What do you know about whether I'm a match for Heavenless Hierarch? Ningqi looked at Shaga with a smile. I originally planned to kill 4 of them. Now you're the 5th. Haha, if you insist, Heavenless Hierarch won't hold back in the supremacy competition. You'll be the only one begging for mercy. Sha Jiaqiang laughed, but a trace of terror surged in his heart. The gaze that Ningqi looked at him with just now was extremely strange, yet somewhat familiar. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that when he looked at someone who was going to die, he had the same gaze as Ningqi. He's really going to kill me. Shaga's heart sank. However, he did not regret it. If he did not express his stance today, Heavenless Hierarch would definitely remember it. He did not believe that Ningqi would be so lawless as to kill an ultimate god from his own country during the supremacy competition. Thinking of that, Shaga suddenly felt a little more relaxed. Young man, it's good to be full of youthful vigor, but you have to understand that when you reach the peak, you'll fall. Seniors like us have walked more paths than you've eaten. I can pretend that I didn't hear what you said just now, but you don't have to stay in Zephyr House anymore. Giant Ghost Divine Venerable, are you leaving? Ningqi smiled as his gaze fell on Giant Ghost. Since we came together, we'll definitely leave together. Giant Ghost Divine Venerable laughed self-deprecatingly. Compared to Heavenless Hierarch, he was more willing to interact with Ningqi. Regardless of whether or not the two of them could resist Heavenless Hierarch, they would go through thick and thin together. The crowd watched as Ningqi and the others left. When they were out of sight, the young Divine Phoenix chuckled and looked at Heavenless Hierarch. Does this new ultimate god have a bad temper? What's going on? I've embarrassed myself in front of you, but I'm sure he'll understand one day. Heavenless Hierarch smiled, then looked at the young man in animal hide next to the young Divine Phoenix. Little brother, are you the one who was rumored to have a high chance of becoming a god king, Heavenless Hierarch Martial Sky? Chapter 40-50. Tianwu, aren't you going to greet ultimate god Wu Tian? Just like you, he was able to defeat experts 1 or 2 levels higher than him when he first entered the ultimate god realm. Young Divine Venerable Feng Chu smiled faintly. The young man in animal skin smiled, and cupped his fists at ultimate god Wu Tian. Tianwu greets ultimate god Wu Tian. You're too kind. You young people are the best. Our generation is old, but we're still unable to take that last step. I think you might be able to take that step earlier than us old guys. Ultimate God Wu Tian smiled faintly. Wild Lion Divine Venerable Lianxing, and the others' expressions changed slightly. They did not expect Ultimate God Wu Tian to have such a high opinion of Ultimate God Wu Tian. They subconsciously focused all their attention on Hierarch Martial Sky. They wanted to see what made him stronger than them. As for Ultimate God Tiandu and the others, they no longer had any thoughts of competing with Ultimate God Martial Sky. They looked at Ultimate God Martial Sky kindly and were not as arrogant as they were toward other newly advanced Ultimate Gods. You're flattering me, Ultimate God Wu Tian. I'm still inexperienced and dare not hope to take that step. I only hope to survive the next few lightning tribulations. A humble smile appeared on Hierarch Marshalsky's face. After a pause, he suddenly glanced in the direction where Ning Qi and Giant Ghost Divine Venerable left. Is that the newly advanced ultimate god from Star Divine Kingdom? He's called Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian? Looks like his skills aren't limited to First Tribulation Ultimate God? Ha ha ha, little brother Tianwu has sharp eyes. That person's combat strength is indeed different from a First Tribulation Ultimate God. Although our Divine Kingdom has a few newly advanced Ultimate Gods, none of them can compare to him. If you ask me, it's very likely that he can compete with you. The Overlord competition this time will be more exciting than the previous ones. Divine Illumination Buddha laughed. Although the newly promoted ultimate gods from the Sunset Divine Kingdom were a little unhappy, they were still convinced by Buddha Illumination Ultimate God's word. If they were in Ultimate God Tiandu's shoes, they would have died in the previous battle. After all, they did not have Ultimate God Tiandu's ability to regenerate his head. Hierarch Martial Sky narrowed his eyes. Which brother can compete with me? Buddha Illuminating Divinity, are you joking? Although Tianwu is a new ultimate god, he has defeated a 3 Tribulation ultimate god. I think his strength is only weaker than the 3 of us and a few other 3 Tribulation ultimate gods. Since when did the Star Divine Kingdom have such a genius who can compete with Tianwu at the 1 Tribulation ultimate god realm? The young Phoenix Divine Venerable smiled faintly and said, "Are you trying to kill us with a borrowed knife? Are you trying to make our 8 Wilderness Divine Kingdom focus our attention on the Star Divine Kingdom so that your Sunset Divine Kingdom can take the opportunity to get a good ranking in the Overlord competition? You don't believe me?" Divine Illumination Buddha smiled. Before you arrived, that person had already fought with Ultimate God Tiandu. Not only did Ultimate God Tiandu lose, but even Hierarch Lian Xing was no match for him. Am I lying when I say that he can compete with Hierarch Martial Sky? The young Phoenix Divine Venerable glanced at Hierarch Skyless, and her heart sank. Hierarch Skyless did not refute her, which meant that Divine Illumination Buddha was right. The Star Divine Kingdom also had a genius who was similar to Tianwu. The young Phoenix Divine Venerable had been very confident about the Overlord competition, but now her confidence was shaken. Hierarch Lian Xing's face darkened when Buddha Illumination Buddha dragged her into the matter. However, she did not dare to refute him because of his status. At the same time, when Ning Qi and the giant Ghost Divine Venerable left Zephyr Tower with their men, they bumped into a large group of Oceanic tribe members at the entrance. The leader of the group exuded a very strong godly venerable aura. He was probably a 4 Tribulation Divine Venerable like Hierarch Skyless. That Sea Clan Ultimate God was followed by 7 to 8 Sea Clan Ultimate Gods of different cultivation levels. One of the Sea Clan Ultimate Gods, whose aura was below average among the 7 to 8 people, had a slight change in expression when he saw Ning Qi. "Wait a moment," the Oceanic Tribe Divine Venerable said in a low voice. The rest of the Oceanic Tribe Divine Venerables, including the leader, stopped in their tracks and looked at Ning Qi and the giant Ghost Divine Venerable. The rank 6 and rank 5 Oceanic Tribe members that the Oceanic Tribe Divine Venerable had brought along were surprised. They looked at Qin Long, then at Ning Qi and the others, wondering if Qin Long, who was from the Ocean King bloodline, was acquainted with the 2 Divine Venerables. "What's the matter?" Ning Qi looked at Qin Long with a smile. When Qin Long first appeared, he recognized him. Now it seemed that Qin Long had already inquired about his original appearance, and knew that he was the one who had rescued hundreds of 6th-rank human tribe warriors from the Sea Tribe. Sure enough, Qin Long sneered when Ning Qi spoke. "Do you think I can't recognize you just because you've changed back to your human appearance? You messed up Shui Gui's advancement ceremony and took hundreds of rank 6 humans away. You even killed hundreds of Oceanic Tribe rank 6 humans. Do you think the Oceanic Tribe will let you go just like that? It's him." The Oceanic Tribe members were surprised when they heard that. However, their eyes were soon filled with anger as they stared at Ning Qi, wishing they could tear Ning Qi into pieces with their eyes. The four tribulation divine venerable leader's expression did not change as he quietly sized up Ning Qi. There's indeed a oceanic tribe spy among the humans. I thought you'd need at least a few years to realize it. I didn't expect my identity to be exposed in such a short time. Ning Qi smiled. Humph. Qin Long snorted, not hiding the murderous intent in his eyes. But, Ning Qi smiled. So what if you're exposed? So what if you know I'm the one who saved the rank 6 humans? I messed up Shuigui's advancement ceremony and killed hundreds of your rank 6 humans. But do you dare to attack me now? Qin Long was stunned when he heard that. A few breaths later, all the Oceanic tribe members were furious. However, they knew that they were on land, the Heavenly Star Divine Kingdom's territory. Who knew if the Heavenly Star Divine King was watching them? Therefore, no matter how angry they were, they did not dare to act rashly. See? You really don't dare to attack me. What good does it do for you to keep me here, and let me know that you know who I am? Sigh, you can't be brainless. Without a brain, you'll be at a disadvantage no matter where you go. You're still lacking in cultivation. Ning Qi sighed softly. Having said that, he was about to leave with the giant ghost divine venerable and the others. Qin Long's expression changed a few times before he was left speechless. A few breaths later, the four tribulation divine venerable leader suddenly said, "Will you participate in the supremacy competition?" Both of them did not bring any other ultimate gods with them, and were meeting alone. Qing Sha, why do you want to talk to me alone? Heavenless Hierarch smiled faintly. Hierarch Qing Sha sized up Hierarch Skyless indifferently. After a few moments, he slowly said, "Some time ago, a rank 6 Sea clan captured more than 100 rank 6 from your Star Divine Kingdom. Have you heard about this?" "Of course I've heard about it." Heavenless Hierarch sneered. "It happened in the Star Divine Kingdom. If I didn't know about it, the Star Divine Kingdom would have belonged to your Sea God Kingdom a long time ago. Don't misunderstand. I'm not here to mock you." Hierarch Qing Sha smiled faintly. "Since you know about this, you should also know that many things happened after that, right? Back then, he killed hundreds of rank 6 from my Sea clan, sneaked into the Sea God Kingdom's divine capital, and saved hundreds of rank 6 from your Star Divine Kingdom. Now he's in the imperial capital of your Star Divine Kingdom, and he's going to participate in the hegemon competition. I'm here today to ask for something from you." "What is it?" Heavenless Hierarch asked faintly. He knew exactly who Hierarch Qing Sha was talking about. The Black North Celestial Emperor's life. Hierarch Qing Sha smiled faintly. Heavenless Hierarch smiled and said, "I can't decide that. His life belongs to him. If you want it, you have to take it yourself. However, if it wasn't for the hegemon competition, I don't think the Divine King would just stand by and do nothing about it. I know that. That's why I want to take his life in the hegemon competition. What do you think, Heavenless Hierarch?" Hierarch Qing Sha smiled faintly. "To be honest, I don't have much of an opinion. If you meet him in the hegemon competition, go ahead and kill him. According to the rules, even the Divine King won't intervene. How can I stop you? You don't have to come to me today to talk about this." Heavenless Hierarch said. "I understand the rules." Hierarch Qing Sha nodded. "I'm here today to ask you for a favor. Let me meet him in the ultimate god battle of the Overlord competition." "Oh!" Heavenless Hierarch's eyes moved slightly before he said with a solemn expression, "You want me to help you cheat on the name list?" "That's right. With the two of us working together, even the young Divine Phoenix and shining Divine Buddha won't be able to detect anything." Hierarch Qing Sha nodded. "Let me think about it. I'll give you an answer one day before the hegemon competition." Heavenless Hierarch said faintly. Then I'll wait for your good news. Hierarch Qing Sha stood up with a smile, cupped his fists, and left. After he left, another figure appeared in the room. Why didn't you agree to his request right away? Hierarch Lian Xing sat beside Heavenless Hierarch and gradually leaned into his embrace. There's no difference between agreeing later and agreeing earlier. The day before the Overlord tournament, send someone to find that kid and ask him about the Eternal God sect. If he agrees, then we'll drop the matter. If he doesn't, then don't blame me for what happens next. Heavenless Hierarch smiled faintly. Hierarch Lian Xing frowned slightly. She could tell that Heavenless Hierarch still wanted to recruit Ning Qi, even after the latter had contradicted him several times. I still don't think he's a good person. Hierarch Lian Xing sighed softly. Time passed in the blink of an eye. On the day before the hegemon competition, a 6th grade God Realm warrior knocked on the door of Hierarch Giant Ghost's residence. The door opened, and the other party stated the purpose of his visit. Soon, someone brought him to Ning Qi. I'm here on Hierarch Lian Xing's orders to ask Celestial Arch Beixian a question. The 6th grade warrior said respectfully. I don't think I have anything to say to her. Please go back. Ning Qi smiled. The 6th grade warrior paused and said awkwardly, Celestial Arch Beixian, I haven't said my question yet. Why don't you listen to me before making a decision? No need. Do you want to leave on your own, or do you want me to send you off? Ning Qi smiled. The 6th grade warrior's expression turned ugly. He lowered his head in silence. After a few breaths of silence, he cupped his fists and left. As soon as he left, he went to find Hierarch Lian Xing and told her everything that had happened. You don't even want to answer my question. Hierarch Lian Xing smiled. This was what she wanted to see. Chapter 4052. Heavenstar Divine Kingdom, Imperial Capital. The tournament wasn't being held in the same place where Ning Qi and Hierarch Celestial Do were fighting, but in Heavenstar Divine King's Imperial Palace. When Ning Qi and the god of the Giant Ghost Palace arrived, a servant from the Imperial Palace led them to an even larger fighting arena. As soon as they set foot in the arena, Ning Qi could sense how terrifying the spell formation was. He suspected that even if dozens of Hierarch attacked together, they wouldn't be able to break it. Hierarch, please wait here for a moment. The tournament will begin when all the other Hierarchs are here. The Imperial Palace servant who brought the two of them here bowed with a smile and turned to leave. Currently, the Giant Ghost and Ning Qi were sitting on one of the dais. Although this arena was larger than the one they'd been in, there were no seats for ordinary people. Instead, it was made up of a series of special platforms, each of which had a spell formation flickering in and out of existence. Ordinary people aren't allowed to spectate the tournament, the Divine Giant Ghost said with a smile. However, the tournament will be projected into the void through the spell formation. When the time comes, everyone in the Imperial Capital will be able to see the details of the tournament from anywhere. The Divine Giant Ghost smiled. The Grade 6 and Grade 5 experts he'd brought with him all stood behind the Divine Giant Ghost with nervous expressions on their faces. On Ning Qi's side, Goku and Bull Demon King were chatting, occasionally flicking their noses on the ground. Little Yu and the others were chatting about the beautiful reliefs they'd seen upon entering the Imperial Palace. Limacho sat quietly next to her, Hu Qingzi wanted to join in on the conversation, but Limacho didn't say a word, so she could only suppress her restlessness. Will the Divine King and the others show up? Ning Qi smiled. They won't. I've only met the Exalted God King once since I became a God King. However, if you do well in the tournament, it's very likely that you'll get an audience with the Exalted God King. He paused for a moment, then looked a bit hesitant. Brother Ning, what you said just now was probably said out of anger, wasn't it? What did I say? Ning Qi smiled. That's right, Are you really going to kill Hierarch Skyless, Hierarch Lianxing, Hierarch Tiandu, Hierarch Quicksand, and Hierarch Shaka? The divine giant ghost said in a low voice. Ning Qi smiled and shook his head. The divine giant ghost breathed a sigh of relief. You've left out two. I'm going to kill the leading ultimate god of the Sea Clan and Qin Long. Ning Qi smiled faintly. Gasping, the god of giant ghost stared at Ning Qi with wide eyes and a gaping mouth. He wanted to say something, but Heavenless Ultimate God and the others had entered the arena. More than 50 ultimate gods from the 4 divine kingdoms had arrived. Each ultimate god brought a dozen or so people with him. In an instant, all the empty platforms were filled up. According to the different camps, the 4 divine kingdoms' seating positions were also particular. As the first ultimate god of the Star Divine Kingdom, Skyless Ultimate God sat on the high platform in the east. Ning Qi and Godly Giant Ghost's dais were located a bit further back from Godly Heavenless, along with the other dais that surrounded Godly Heavenless. Since everyone's here, let's start with the rank 5 hegemons. Godly Heavenless said with an enigmatic smile. Sure. Godly Buddha nodded. Hierarch Feng Chu and Hierarch Qing Sha had no objections. During this period, Qin Long, who was behind Hierarch Qing Sha, kept staring at Ning Qi with undisguised killing intent. In the center of the arena, a stone stele rose up. It was 30 meters tall and 15 meters wide, and occasionally crackled with golden lightning. According to the usual rules, everyone will enter the names of the participants into the stele with their divine will. When the time comes, the hegemon's stele will automatically select the names of the participants. Godly Heavenless smiled. Everyone was already familiar with this procedure, and it only took a few breaths of time for the names to be recorded. Brother Ning, have you recorded their names? It'll only take a few breaths of time for the names to be confirmed. Godly Giant Ghost God said. Yes. Ning Qi nodded and looked at the stele. He could sense that there was a special array formation on the stele, but he didn't know if it was used to randomly select the names or to prevent others from using their divine will to tamper with the list. After a few breaths of time, golden names appeared on the stele, each with a corresponding name next to it. Ning Qi quickly found the names of Little Yuer and the other two. Little Yuer Longjiang, Zuoling Dongfan, Li Macho Fu Jiuxiang. I'm going up against her? Longjiang subconsciously looked at Little Yuer and heaved a sigh of relief. If he was going up against Li Macho in the first round, he would have no choice but to surrender. Godly Giant Ghost, is it possible to tamper with the list? Ning Qi's eyes flickered. It's unlikely. Godly Giant Ghost God shook his head. The restrictive spell was personally set up by Heavenly Star God King. Even a 4-tribulation god would find it difficult to tamper with it. Ning Qi nodded slightly and glanced over at Ultimate God Skyless. He found that Ultimate God Skyless was also looking at him with a smile in his eyes. He even nodded slightly in acknowledgement. Next, the Overlord competition officially began. After a dozen matches between 5th-grade God Realm warriors, it was finally Little Yuer and Longjiang's turn. The two flew down from the stage and stood in the center of the battlefield. Even though you're Celestial Dharch Beishuan's man, I won't hold back, Longjiang said in a low voice. Little Yuer looked at Longjiang with a half-smile. You don't have to hold back. Please. Longjiang nodded. Bang. Longjiang's body turned into a beam of light and was sent flying backward. He landed heavily on the ground, unconscious. Just now, everyone had only seen a black and a white aura coming from Little Yuer. Even the 6th-grade God Realm warriors didn't see what had happened. Brother Ning, I think I should have told him to surrender. Godly Giant Ghost God smiled wryly. Having said that, he made a grabbing motion and Longjiang flew back to the stage. Godly Giant Ghost God placed his hand on Longjiang's head. A few breaths later, Longjiang slowly woke up, his face dark. He knew that he had lost. Godly Illumination Buddha, Young Phoenix, Green Demon, Heavenless, and the other godly cultivators all looked at little Yu thoughtfully. Little Yu flew back to the stage and smiled at Long Jiang. Then, she went to Ningqi to ask for credit. Don't get too full of yourself. There are still many matches to go. Be careful or they'll trip you up. Ningqi smiled and patted little Yu's head. Yes, young master. Little Yu nodded with a smile. Chapter 40-53. Dong Fan. Hierarch Lian Xing withdrew her gaze from little Yu. Lord Lian Xing, I'm here. A peak advanced rank 5 God Realm warrior hurriedly stepped forward and bowed respectfully to Lian Xing. Don't hold back against that woman. Either you die or she dies. Lian Xing said. Yes, Lord Lian Xing. Dong Fan subconsciously glanced at Ningqi, then at Zhuo Ling and Li Macho. He knew that his opponent would be one of them. Ling do your best. Little Yu cheered Zhuo Ling on. Zhuo Ling nodded. She was no longer the timid and pitiful little girl she used to be. She had fought in countless battles over the years. Apart from little Yu, Li Macho, and a few others, she had never met a worthy opponent. Zhuo Ling came to the center of the battlefield. Dong Fan also flew down from the high platform. The two faced each other. The scene was displayed in the void above the battlefield. Everyone in the imperial capital could see it clearly. That Dong Fan seems to be the number one among the level 5 experts under Hierarch Lian Xing. His strength is so strong that only Fu Jiuxiang under Hierarch Skyless can be compared to him. He is already one of the top level 5 experts in Star God Kingdom. The Divine Giant Ghost said with a very serious expression. He felt that something was wrong. It was too much of a coincidence. Little Yu was facing Long Jiang in the first match. Then Zhuo Ling was facing Hierarch Lian Xing's people, and Li Macho was facing Hierarch Skyless people. Wasn't the probability too low? Giant Ghost told Ningqi his thoughts. Ningqi only smiled and looked at the high platform where Hierarch Lian Xing and Hierarch Skyless were. Coincidentally, Hierarch Lian Xing also turned around and met Ningqi's gaze. Her eyes flashed with mockery as she slowly turned back. Looks like Hierarch Skyless still has a way to manipulate the list in the Overlord's tablet. I should be facing him in the first match? Ningqi narrowed his eyes. At this moment, Dong Fan stared at Zhuo, his eyes filled with amazement. However, when he thought of Hierarch Lian Xing's instructions, he did not dare to be negligent. He coldly said, "This is a life-and-death battle. Either I die or you die." Sure. Zhuo Ling nodded with a smile. There was not the slightest trace of fear in her eyes. The spectators in the imperial capital sighed in their hearts. Many of them were natives of the imperial capital, and they already knew of Dong Fan's status among the 5th-grade Divine Realm warriors. They all felt that Zhuo Ling was already a dead man, but it was a pity for her beautiful face. Dad, do you think Heavenly Monarch Beixian or Divine Lord Lian Xing will win? Chu Feng looked up at the void with a nervous expression. It should be Hierarch Lian Xing's side, right? I've seen Dong Fan's strength once. He's extremely powerful. None of the peak advanced level 5 martial artists in our Sky Tripod City is his match, Chu Tianxian said solemnly. So strong? Chu Feng was stunned. Yi Kong, who was sitting next to Chu Sun, noticed that Chu Sun's gaze was not on Zhuo Ling and Dong Fan. As long as the situation on the high platform appeared in the void, he noticed that Chu Sun would subconsciously look for something. As expected, this bitch already has someone in her heart. Yi Kong was expressionless, but the rage in the depths of his eyes burned uncontrollably. I won't hold back. Be careful. Dong Fan took a deep breath. Rays of golden light flowed out of his body. In the next moment, his body suddenly expanded, turning into a giant that was hundreds of meters tall. In front of him, Zhuo Ling became as small as an ant. Die! Dong Fan shouted and lifted his foot to stomp on Zhuo Ling. All the level 5 God Realm warriors present could feel that the aura of Dong Fan's attack had far exceeded the limit of a peak advanced level 5 martial artist. If it were me, I could only withstand 3 attacks of this level, Long Jiang thought with a serious expression. But in the blink of an eye, his expression changed slightly. He was confident that he could withstand 3 attacks from Dong Fan, but he was defeated by Little Yu in one move. What would happen if Dong Fan's opponent was Little Yu? The divine giant ghost subconsciously glanced at Ning Qi and saw that Ning Qi was still smiling. For some reason, he seemed to have guessed the result. He had chosen to believe in himself several times before, but Ning Qi had always exceeded his expectations. This time, he felt that he should believe in Ning Qi. Child's play. Zhuo Ling chuckled. Her body suddenly emitted a black and white aura that was exactly the same as Little Yu's. The black and white aura condensed into an umbrella in her hand. She lifted it lightly and covered her head. At the same time, Dong Fan's huge foot landed on the black and white umbrella. Boom! The instant the sole of his foot collided with the black and white umbrella, there was a huge roar that sounded like rolling thunder on the battlefield. Immediately after, Dong Fan felt a terrifying aura reverberating from the black and white umbrella. The bones in his foot were instantly broken, and his body subconsciously fell to the side. Zhuo Ling, who was under the umbrella, watched this scene with a smile. From beginning to end, her body did not move a single inch. Impossible! Hierarch Lian Xing's brows furrowed slightly, almost forming a crease. She was well aware of Dong Fan's strength. Even if he had withstood that attack just now, it was impossible for him to counterattack and injure Dong Fan so severely. She did not even sense any fluctuations of aura from Zhuo Ling's body. Could it be this black and white umbrella? What is this power? Hierarch Lian Xing thought to herself. With a broken leg, Dong Fan's face was a mix of green and white. He did not dare to look at Hierarch Lian Xing. Instead, he roared and attacked Zhuo Ling again. Bang! This time, Dong Fan's fist fiercely bombarded the black and white umbrella. The next moment, the irresistible power surged again. Crack! Dong Fan's arm was twisted into a fried dough twist by the power, and blood continuously dripped down from the air. Impossible! Dong Fan's face was deathly pale. A hint of madness appeared in his eyes as he attacked Zhuo Ling again. However, every time he attacked, he would end up with cuts and bruises all over his body. In the imperial capital, countless people were so shocked that their mouths formed an O shape after witnessing this scene. They could accept it if Dong Fan was defeated. However, the only thing they could not accept was that Dong Fan was defeated too miserably. From the beginning to the end, Zhuo Ling did not seem to have the slightest bit of aura. She also did not take the initiative to attack. She only used the black and white umbrella to block Dong Fan's attack. She looked more like she was dancing and not fighting with someone. Dong Fan, stop! Hierarch Lian Xing suddenly sensed something and yelled out. However, Dong Fan had already fallen into a state of madness. He only knew that if he did not kill Zhuo Ling he would not be able to live. Therefore, Dong Fan gathered the last of his strength and threw the fiercest punch in history. Bang! Dong Fan spat out a mouthful of blood as his body fell to the ground. He had actually died. Chapter 40-54. Zhuo Ling vs. Dong Fan. Zhuo Ling wins. Ultimate God Skyless announced slowly. His gaze fell on Zhuo Ling and a strange light flashed in his eyes. The ultimate gods present looked at Zhuo Ling with a strange expression. Some of them even looked at Ning Qi's high platform and observed Little Yu. Zhuo Ling's technique was similar to Little Yu's, so they could not help but connect the dots. What kind of cultivation technique did these two girls cultivate? Zhuoling did not take the initiative to attack from the beginning, but she managed to make Dong Fan, who was at the top of the grade 5 martial artists, kill himself. Even ultimate gods were shocked by her technique. Go and collect Dong Fan's corpse. Ultimate god Skyless looked at Divine Venerable Lian Xing and said calmly. Divine Venerable Lian Xing remained expressionless. After a few moments of silence, she gently waved her hand. Dong Fan's corpse seemed to be pulled by an invisible force and slowly flew back to the high platform. At that moment, Ultimate God Skyless suddenly looked at Zhuoling and Little Yu and said with a smile, "Young ladies, I plan to accept you as my personal disciples. What do you think?" Personal disciples? Ultimate God Skyless was accepting personal disciples? One had to know that Ultimate God Skyless had never accepted an in-name disciple, let alone a personal disciple. The geniuses he had cultivated were all his subordinate. None of them could become his disciple. But today, Heavenless Hierarch wanted to take in 2 personal disciples. This shocked everyone. Only Ultimate God Shining Buddha, Ultimate God Qing Sha, and Ultimate God Feng Chu were deep in thought. They did not seem too surprised that Ultimate God Skyless wanted to accept the 2 girls as his personal disciples. It was as though they had expected it. Behind Ultimate God Skyless, the Grade 6 and Grade 5 martial artists' expressions turned ugly. However, they did not dare to show it. One of them was Fu Jiuxiang, who was about to fight Li Macho. He subconsciously clenched his fists as a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Dong Fan had already been defeated by Heavenless Divine Honorable, yet he still had the thought of accepting the 2 women as his direct disciples. If he were to be defeated by Li Macho, he would no longer be of any value in Heavenless Divine Honorable's eyes, let alone becoming his disciple. Heavenless Hierarch, don't you think it's a little rude to poach my man in front of me? Ningqi said with a faint smile. Zhuoling put away the black and white umbrella and flew back to Ningqi's side. She exchanged a glance with Little Yu and a crafty smile flashed in her eyes. Are they your disciples? Heavenless Hierarch smiled. No. Ningqi smiled and shook his head. Then why can't I accept them as my direct disciples? Heavenless Hierarch smiled. Everyone felt that it made sense. At this moment, Little Yu spoke. Although I'm not young master's disciple, I have a goal, and that is to warm young master's bed. That's why I can't take you as my master. Me too. Zhuoling continued. The atmosphere immediately became a little awkward. She'd rather be a bedwarming maid than become the disciple of Heavenless Hierarch? Were these 2 girls stupid? Everyone looked at the 2 girls with a strange expression. The smile on Heavenless Hierarch's face did not diminish, but a cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. He looked at the 2 girls with a smile and said, "Be my disciples and I guarantee that both of you will be able to become ultimate gods in the future." Hiss! The Grade 5 and Grade 6 experts brought by the Grand Ultimate Gods gasped and looked at Heavenless Hierarch in disbelief. At the same time, a trace of jealousy rose in their hearts. Who was Heavenless Hierarch? Along with some ultimate gods, he was known as the existence closest to a divine king. Since he had spoken, it was impossible for him to boast. What's so good about being an ultimate god? No matter how strong an ultimate god is, he can't be stronger than young master. Little Yu said with a smile. Moreover, with young master guiding us in our cultivation, it's already a matter of time before we become ultimate gods in the future. You don't need to worry too much. Little girl, how can you say that? Hierarch Lian Xing frowned and shouted coldly. Old auntie, can't you understand what I'm saying? There's indeed a generation gap between us. Little Yu said with a smile. Hierarch Lian Xing almost vomited blood when she heard that. Everyone's expression became even weirder. They knew Ningqi was stubborn, but they did not expect the Divine Realm warrior under Ningqi to be so unyielding. A Grade 5 going against a Grade 7. Octaterra Divine Nation's new ultimate god Martial Sky had been staring at little Yu. When he heard what she said to Hierarch Lian Xing, Hierarch Martial Sky could not help but say in a low voice, "This lady is to my liking. You're already an ultimate god and you're looking for a grade 5 divine realm warrior to be your cultivation partner?" Young Hierarch Feng could not help but look at Martial Sky with a slight frown. She's only a grade 5 now and it won't be long before she becomes a grade 6. With her qualifications, it won't be difficult for her to become an ultimate god. Hierarch Martial Sky smiled and said, "When the ultimate god battle begins, I'll kill the ultimate god next to her. I believe she won't have a reason to reject my good intentions. As long as you're happy." Young Hierarch Feng snorted. "Lian Xing, there's no need to bicker with a junior. After the ultimate god battle, you'll know that becoming my disciple will only bring you benefit." Hierarch Skyless smiled at little Yu. After a short pause, he said, "Let's begin the next battle." The next battle was between Li Macho and Fu Jiuxiang. Fu Jiuxiang was a grade 5 divine prodigy cultivated by Hierarch Skyless. In terms of strength, he was stronger than Dong Fan. However, as Hierarch Skyless had failed to accept Zhuoling as his disciple, everyone was still immersed in shock. Hence, they did not pay much attention to the two of them until the end of the battle. Fu Jiuxiang's eyes flashed with anger when he saw the ultimate gods. Even the grade 6 and grade 5 divine venerables were still sizing up little Yuan Zhuoling. He decided to vent his anger on the purple-clad lady opposite him. "Don't beg for mercy later. I won't accept it." Fu Jiuxiang looked at Li Macho and said faintly. Li Macho frowned slightly but did not say anything. The next moment, Fu Jiuxiang made his move. An aura that far exceeded Dong Fan's erupted from his body. Everyone's attention was once again focused on the battlefield. They could see that Fu Jiuxiang had used all his strength and was ready to end the battle with a single strike. Li Macho's hand that was holding the horsetail whisk did not move. Instead, she raised her other hand. A gust of black smoke instantly gushed out and formed a huge black palm print. It directly broke through Fu Jiuxiang's attack and landed on his body with a loud bang. Fu Jiuxiang's body flew backward and heavily landed on the protective shield around the battlefield, causing the protective shield to emit a golden light. Cough, cough, cough. After Fu Jiuxiang fell to the ground, he suddenly started coughing. He was shocked to find that his skin had turned black and purple. He subconsciously rubbed his skin, only to find that he had rubbed off a layer of skin. The poisonous gas on his body was constantly corroding his flesh. Cough! With another cough, a piece of black flesh flew out of Fu Jiuxiang's mouth and landed on the ground. Upon closer inspection, it looked like a necrotic lung. Still looking for the strongest Dragon Slayer system for free? Baidu directly searched Speed Reading Pavilion. Speed reading without waiting. =. Chapter 4055. That's a poison art? Heavenless Ultimate God's eyes flickered with a hint of surprise. Logically speaking, things like poison techniques were no longer useful at the 5th grade. Warriors in that realm would have their bones tempered into golden bodies, and their fleshly bodies were incredibly powerful. That was why few 5th-rank warriors in the destinable god realm would cultivate poison arts. Li Macho looked coldly at Fu Jiuxiang, but didn't make a second move. Cough, cough, cough. Fu Jiuxiang coughed again. He coughed out chunks of flesh and blood, and his skin and flesh melted like a burning candle. "You." Fu Jiuxiang took a step toward Li Macho, his right hand raised high into the air, and his eyes filled with fear and despair. He realized that not only was his fleshly body incapable of fighting back against the poison energy, but even his own power was being corroded by it. If he tried to use it, it would only speed up the process of melting his fleshly body. Both inside and outside of him were toxic, and his power no longer belonged to him. It had become an enemy. "Give me the antidote," Fu Jiuxiang said, a pleading look in his eyes as he glared at Limacho. "I admit defeat. I don't accept pleas," Limacho said coolly. She returned what Fu Jiuxiang had said to her earlier to Fu Jiuxiang, word for word. Fu Jiuxiang's right hand was now nothing but bone. What should have been golden bones were now covered with black veins, and everyone could clearly see that they were melting. The divine giant ghost couldn't help but look over at Ning Qi in shock. If Little Yue was special, then what about Zhuo Ling? Now that Limacho had killed Fu Jiuxiang with a single move, he couldn't help but wonder how Ning Qi had managed to raise these three fearsome experts among the 5th rank. "It's a good thing she went easy on me." Long Jiang looked at Limacho with lingering fear. Thinking back to how he had attacked Limacho earlier, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If he hadn't been working for the divine giant ghost, he would have ended up just like Fu Jiuxiang. What a powerful 5th rank expert! Qin Long squinted his eyes. Ning Qi's side had won all 3 battles in a row. This was definitely not a coincidence. Based on his experience, none of the Grade 5 Divine Realm warriors brought by the Sea Tribe could be a match for Limacho's group of 3. No wonder even Heavenless Ultimate God wants to take them as disciples. If they can join our Sea Clan, there might be 3 extraordinary Ultimate Gods in the future. Qin Long's eyes flashed with a strange light before he suddenly thought of something. His face became extremely gloomy as he glanced at Ning Qi. "Help me detoxify the poison, I admit defeat." Fu Jiuxiang walked towards Limacho with difficulty. Every step he took left a bloody mark on the ground because his feet were also melting. The clothes on his body had long since become black and red sludge together with his flesh and blood. Limacho calmly looked at Fu Jiuxiang. She suddenly swept her horsetail whisk and Fu Jiuxiang was sent flying again. He crashed heavily into the protective barrier and fell to the ground with a bang. At that moment, he no longer had the strength to get up. He could only turn his head with difficulty and look at Heavenless Ultimate God. "Master, save me." Heavenless Ultimate God looked at Fu Jiuxiang expressionlessly. The 6th and 5th rank experts behind him could not help but feel sorry for him. They cultivated together with Fu Jiuxiang. Even if there were occasional conflicts, their relationship was deeper than ordinary people. Although ultimate gods can't intervene in the Overlord battle, Celestial Emperor Beixian, can I beg you to spare his life? Heavenless Ultimate God looked at Ning Qi and slowly asked. Fu Jiuxiang's eyes showed a hint of surprise. He believed he could definitely keep his life as long as Heavenless Ultimate God was willing to speak for him. Every detail of the battlefield was reflected in the void. When the people in the imperial capital saw Heavenless Ultimate God speaking to Ning Qi, they all had a strange look on their faces. However, most people felt that Ning Qi would give him face. After all, both of them were ultimate gods from the Star Divine Kingdom. There was no reason for them to be so cruel to their own people. The Overlord battle is the Overlord battle. Ultimate gods can't intervene. I can't stop him from dying, and neither can you. As the first ultimate god of the Star Divine Kingdom, I suggest you adjust your mentality and don't let others see you as a joke. Ning Qi smiled at Heavenless Ultimate God. The faint smile on Heavenless Ultimate God's face disappeared without a trace. He quietly looked at Ning Qi for more than 10 breaths. The entire place was in a state of extreme silence. Fu Jiuxiang's eyes flashed with a hint of shock as his life force continued to decline. Gradually, his pupils turned grayish-white. After more than 10 breaths, Fu Jiuxiang's physical body had completely melted, leaving only a pool of dark red blood on the ground. Wild Lion Divine Master sighed softly in his heart. Based on his understanding of Heavenless Ultimate God, Heavenless Ultimate God and Ning Qi had become irreconcilable enemies from that moment onward. Even if Heavenless Ultimate God did not meet Ning Qi in the Overlord battle, Heavenless Ultimate God would still find various opportunities to seek revenge in the future. Heavenless, we can't let him live. Divine Master Lian Xing's lips moved slightly as her voice turned into a thin line and entered Heavenless Ultimate God's ears. Heavenless Ultimate God did not speak. After a few breaths, he slowly said, "Li Macho wins this battle." Li Macho turned around expressionlessly and flew back to the high platform to sit behind Ning Qi. The following battles were a little boring as there were no more crushing defeats like the previous 3 battles. Soon, the first round of the 5th grade battle was over. When the second round began, everyone who encountered Li Macho chose to surrender. Those who did not surrender ended up like Fu Jiuxiang and turned into a pool of poisonous water. Li Macho never left anyone alive. Ning Qi guessed that she could still extract a trace of experience from killing to improve her cultivation level. This was also considered a cheat that the system had given Li Macho. When the second round of the 5th grade battle ended, Li Macho and the other 2 women did not have many opponents left. There were only 3 rounds in the 5th grade battle. Without any surprises, Li Macho and the other 2 women won 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. However, Little Yuer and Zuoling did not care about the top 3 rankings. They let Li Macho win 1st place while they took 2nd and 3rd place. Next is the 6th grade battle. Heavenless Ultimate God smiled. He paused for a while and looked at Ning Qi. Heavenly Emperor Baixian, don't you have any 6th grade Divine Realm warriors who can participate in the battle? No. Ning Qi smiled. Everyone laughed when they heard that. The Ultimate Gods were relieved that Ning Qi was not able to cultivate a 6th grade Divine Realm warrior who could participate in the Overlord battle. This meant that Ning Qi was not particularly strong. Chapter 40-56. Heavenless Divine Lord smiled when he heard Ning Qi's reply and nodded as if he understood. It's no wonder. You're a new ultimate god with a weak foundation. It's already surprising that you managed to train 3 rank 5 Divine Realm warriors. After a pause, his gaze landed on Li Macho and the other 2 ladies. 3 young ladies, if you change your mind after the ultimate god battle, you can tell me directly. My previous promise still stands. As long as the 3 of you are willing to be my disciple, I can guarantee that you'll become ultimate gods. The rank 5 and rank 6 Divine Lords under Heavenless Divine Lord's command looked a little upset, but they did not dare to show it. Fu Jiuxiang had just died in Li Macho's hands in such a miserable manner. However, Heavenless Divine Lord acted as if nothing had happened and even wanted to take Li Macho as his disciple. That made them feel that Heavenless Divine Lord was too heartless. However, they could not guess what an ultimate god was thinking and could only pretend not to hear it. If you still have the strength to take us as your disciples after the ultimate god battle, maybe we'll consider it. Li Macho suddenly said. She then looked at Ning Qi. How confident are you if you meet him? 70 to 80%. Ning Qi said. That's enough. Li Macho nodded slightly. It took a few breaths of time for everyone to understand the meaning of Li Macho's words, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. 70 to 80%? A new ultimate god dared to say he was 70 to 80% confident if he met Heavenless Divine Lord? Isn't this a little too arrogant? Who doesn't know how to brag? Hee, someone sneered softly. The person who spoke was Divine Lord Marshall Sky, who was standing behind the young Phoenix Divine Lord. As the new ultimate god in Octaterra Divine Kingdom, he was confident he could defeat even a 3 Tribulation ultimate god. He looked down on people like Ning Qi from the bottom of his heart. Heavenless Divine Lord smiled without saying a word. After a few breaths of silence, he glanced at Li Macho before his gaze landed on Ning Qi. I hope I can see the 70 to 80% confidence you mentioned. Having said that, Heavenless Divine Lord did not wait for Ning Qi to speak and announced the start of the Rank 6 battle. Ning Qi's side became a true bystander in the following battle as he watched the Rank 6 ultimate gods fight each other to the death. However, everyone was basically dealing with outsiders. They would go easy on their own people, but there was an exception. Whether it was Godly Heavenless, Godly Lianxing, Quicksand, Heaven Do, or any of the others, all of their subordinates would go into a frenzy whenever they encountered the subordinates of Godly Giant Ghost. They wouldn't hold back at all. As a result, all of Giant Ghost's subordinates had been eliminated before they could even make it to the finals. The top three were from the Sea God Nation, Octaterra Divine Nation, Setting Sun Divine Nation, and Heavenly Star Divine Nation. Those who had met the godly exalted Giant Ghost were like 6th-ranked warriors on steroids, and didn't perform well in front of the others. Countless people in the capital were stomping their feet and cursing. Even those who had supported Godly Heavenless were starting to waver. Godly Heavenless was expressionless, but Godly Lianxing seemed to be losing face. Her face was ashen, and the 6th-ranked warriors behind her lowered their heads, not daring to make a sound. Godly Heavenless, let's start the Godly Exalted battle. Buddha Illuminating Divinity chuckled. That's right. Don't waste time. Godly Green Fiend intentionally glanced at Ning Qi, as if afraid that Ning Qi wouldn't understand what he was trying to say. He wanted Ning Qi to spend the rest of the battle in fear. The Overlord's tablet rose from the center of the battlefield again. Godly Heavenless glanced at the crowd and smiled. Next, Godly Exalts, please leave your names. The Overlord's tablet will automatically select the participants. The Godly Exalts shot out their divine consciousnesses and left their names on the Overlord's tablet. In the process, Godly Green Fiend and Godly Heavenless exchanged glances. Chapter 4057. Countless divine consciousnesses crisscrossed in the void as the names disappeared from the Overlord's tablet. Ning Qi's eyes moved slightly as he suddenly looked in a certain direction. He could vaguely sense two unusual auras among the crisscrossing divine consciousnesses. However, other than Ning Qi, the other ultimate gods did not seem to notice anything. Ning Qi looked at Ultimate God Skyless, then at the source of the other unique fluctuation. Allying with the Oceanic clan? Interesting. Ning Qi's eyes fell on Ultimate God Qing Sha with a faint smile in his eyes. Coincidentally, Ultimate God Qing Sha also raised his head and looked in Ning Qi's direction with a smile on his face. The two smiled and looked at each other for a few breaths before looking away. The image of the Overlord's tablet appeared in the void. All the God Realm warriors in the Imperial capital were anxiously waiting for the name list to be released. An hour later, the Overlord's tablet suddenly flashed with golden light as the ultimate gods' names gradually appeared. All the ultimate gods present and the humans in the Imperial capital focused their attention on Ning Qi. They only wanted to know who Ning Qi would fight in the first ultimate god battle. When Ultimate God Wild Lion saw the name next to Ning Qi, his expression suddenly became a little strange. He subconsciously glanced at Ultimate God Skyless. Brother Ning, you're going against Ultimate God Wild Lion. Giant Ghost Divine Venerable said with a strange expression. There were so many ultimate gods present, but Ning Qi just had to fight an ultimate god from Heavenly Star Divine Nation. Furthermore, it was not Tian Du and the others, but Ultimate God Wild Lion, who was kind to Ning Qi. One had to admit that it was too much of a coincidence. I thought it would be Ultimate God Skyless. Looks like he doesn't want to make things too obvious. Ning Qi smiled faintly. Giant Ghost Divine Venerable was slightly taken aback. Then a flash of surprise appeared in his eyes. He understood what Ning Qi meant. Could Ultimate God Skyless really control the Overlord's tablet and change the name list? Brother Ning, you mean? Giant Ghost Divine Venerable hesitated. He still felt that Ning Qi might be overthinking things. In the next battle, I will either fight Ultimate God Skyless or Ultimate God Qing Sha. But I think my chances of fighting Ultimate God Qing Sha will be higher. Do you believe me? Ning Qi smiled faintly. The giant ghost murmured, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. With the start of the first Ultimate God battle, the Hegemon battle had gradually entered a white-hot stage. Countless Celestial Realm warriors from all over the Imperial capital had rushed to watch the last Ultimate God battle. It was only at times like this that they could witness the Divine Lord's power with their own eyes. Moreover, they could watch it to their heart's content. Celestial Emperor Bei Xian, I'll surrender when you and I fight. A voice rang in Ning Qi's ears. Ning Qi looked up and saw a wild lion deity grinning bitterly at him. Ning Qi nodded slightly. The other party had seen him suppress Hierarch Lian Xing, so it was normal for her to surrender. Soon, an Ultimate God battle ended with the winner being an Ultimate God from the Sea Clan. When the Ultimate God left the arena, his eyes suddenly fell on Ning Qi's side and he made a provocative gesture of cutting his neck. Ning Qi looked at him indifferently without saying a word. The next Ultimate God battle would be between him and Berserk Lion Divine Venerable. Next, the North Mystic Heavenly Monarch versus the Berserk Lion Divine Venerable. Heavenless Hierarch said lightly. Hierarch Skyless, there's no need to fight. I admit defeat. Berserk Lion Divine Venerable said. Apart from the Divine Nation's side, the other three Divine Nations' ultimate gods were surprised by Berserk Lion Divine Venerable's decision to surrender without a fight. Hierarch Martial Sky sneered disdainfully and glanced at Berserk Lion Divine Venerable before saying to Young Phoenix Divine Venerable, I didn't expect Berserk Lion Divine Venerable to be so cowardly. He doesn't even have the guts to fight a newly advanced Ultimate God. Something's wrong. The Young Phoenix Ultimate God frowned slightly. Look at the other Ultimate Gods from the Star Divine Kingdom. They don't seem to be surprised that he surrendered. It seems like the Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian has his reasons for being so arrogant. Is that so? Hierarch Martial Sky purposely looked at Hierarch Tiandu and the others and found that Young Phoenix Divine Venerable's words made sense. The Divine Nation's side was not surprised that Berserk Lion Divine Venerable surrendered. Instead, they had a strange expression on their faces. Berserk Lion Divine Venerable is a triple tribulation ultimate god and is extremely experienced. How strong are you if even he had to surrender? Hierarch Marshalsky's gaze fell on Ning Qi as a thoughtful look flashed across his eyes. However, he quickly tossed the thought to the back of his mind. In his opinion, he was confident he could defeat Ning Qi no matter how strong he was. As the newly advanced ultimate god of Octaterra Divine Nation, who could even defeat a triple tribulation ultimate god, Hierarch Marshalsky's confidence was not groundless. Berserk Lion Divine Venerable, are you sure you want to surrender? Hierarch Wu Tian frowned slightly. I'm sure. I'm no match for Celestial Emperor Bei Xian anyway. There's no need to continue fighting. Berserk Lion Divine Venerable smiled. These words immediately shocked everyone who was staring at the void, and they also indirectly understood some information related to Ning Qi's strength. Even Berserk Lion Divine Venerable admits that he's no match for him? Chu Feng looked at Chu Tianxian and Chu Sun in shock. Yi Kang's expression was extremely ugly. He thought he could see Ning Qi being defeated by someone else after the ultimate god battle started. He did not expect Ning Qi to win a round before even fighting. The one who surrendered was a veteran ultimate god, Berserk Lion Divine Nation. There's a conspiracy. Yi Kang looked at Chu Sun. There's no reason for Berserk Lion Divine Venerable to lose to a newly advanced ultimate god. His surrender was most likely arranged by Hierarch Wu Tian. What nonsense are you talking about? Why would Hierarch Wu Tian arrange this? Can't you see that Hierarch Wu Tian is already targeting Celestial Emperor Bei Xian? Chu Sun immediately snorted at Yi Kang's words. Chu Tianxian also frowned and looked at Yi Kang. Nephew, some things shouldn't be said. I won't be able to protect you if people find out that you're talking about an ultimate god. Yi Kang's expression changed slightly before saying, Uncle, you're right. I'm being impulsive. Dad, look, the first round of the ultimate god battle has ended. The second round's name list is coming out. Chu Feng suddenly pointed at the void. Celestial Emperor Bei Xian's opponent this time is. Chu Tianxian was slightly taken aback, a strange look in his eyes. Hierarch Qing Sha? Chu Sun was stunned. That was the leader of the Oceanic nation's ultimate god. His cultivation level was probably higher than Hierarch Wu Tian's. Ha ha ha, you won the first round easily. How are you going to win the second round? How are you going to win? The corners of Yi Kang's mouth could not help but curl up slightly as he looked at the list. In his mind, he seemed to have already imagined the scene of Ning Qi being powerless in front of Hierarch Qing Sha. At the same time, it's really Hierarch Qing Sha? The giant ghost divine master narrowed his eyes. Chapter 40-58. Giant Ghost hadn't believed that Hierarch Heavenless and the others could control the hegemon's steel, but the truth was right in front of his eyes. Ning Qi's opponent in the second round was a pinnacle ultimate god from the Sea God Kingdom, Qing Sha. Such a coincidence made people suspicious. Brother Ning, why don't we admit defeat? Before Skyless Ultimate God became the first ultimate god in Stellar Sky Divine Kingdom, Ultimate God Qing Sha was already one of the top ultimate gods in Sea God Kingdom. Currently, there are only 4 or 5 ultimate gods who are comparable to him. The divine paragon Giant Ghost transmitted. If Giant Ghost didn't concede, then it didn't take a genius to figure out that Hierarch Green Fiend wouldn't let Ning Qi off the hook. Once he made his move, it would be a deadly one. I also want to see the power of a 4-tribulation ultimate god. Ning Qi chuckled. A gleam of admiration could be seen in the giant ghost god's eyes. If he were in Ning Qi's shoes, he would never be able to remain as calm as he was. Apart from that, he couldn't help but wonder if the strength of a physical sage was really that much stronger than an ordinary advancement. He had seen Ning Qi when he was a rank 6. After he became a godly venerable one, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. He could even scare off godly venerable quicksand with one punch. Back then, Giant Ghost had assumed that Ning Qi was between the second and third tribulations. But later, when even Hierarch Celestial Du and Hierarch Lian Xing weren't a match for him, he realized that he had underestimated Ning Qi. Ning Qi's strength was at least between a 3-tribulation ultimate god and a 4-tribulation ultimate god. Heavenly Emperor Bei Xian, you're a new ultimate god after all. No one will say anything if you admit defeat. You're facing Divine Lord Qing Sha after all. Heavenless Hierarch said slowly. His voice reverberated throughout the entire imperial capital. Everyone was surprised before a trace of admiration rose in their hearts. Heavenless Ultimate God still tried to persuade them despite the obvious enmity between them. Did that not indirectly prove Heavenless Ultimate God's magnanimity as the first Ultimate God of Stellar Sky Divine Kingdom? There's no need for that. I'd like to see how strong the Sea Clan's peak Ultimate Gods are. Ning Qi shook his head with a faint smile. You don't know what's good for you. Hierarch Skyless is appreciating your talent. If you don't listen to his advice, your life and death will have nothing to do with Hierarch Skyless. Hierarch Lian Xing said with a frown. Should I thank Heavenless Hierarch instead? Ning Qi smiled with a slightly strange expression. There's no need to thank me. I just hope that you can consider it carefully before making a decision. Even though I don't like you very much, you're still the Divine Lord of the Divine Kingdom. Heavenless Hierarch said lightly. When the god's domain warriors in the imperial capital heard Heavenless Venerate's words, the admiration in their eyes intensified. Skyless, you don't have to persuade anymore. Hierarch Qing Sha chuckled and stood up. Newborn calves are not afraid of tigers. Only when they encounter setbacks and tribulations will they learn to be fearful. The ultimate gods from the Sea clan chuckled, and looked at Ning Qi with a hint of mockery in their eyes. Even an ultimate god of the same level would have to be careful when facing Qing Sha. One wrong move and the whole game would be lost, let alone a newly advanced ultimate god. It was as easy as crushing an ant for ultimate god Qing Sha to kill a newly ascended ultimate god. Above everyone's heads, there were 4 pairs of eyes quietly watching the battle without anyone noticing. What does your 3 divine nations plan on giving out as rewards for the hegemon competition? That depends on your plans, Sea King. Let's not talk about rewards first. Have you noticed some changes in this realm? Yes, we've noticed it. The great tribulation of eternity repeats itself. The changes in this realm might cause us to go against the Shunluo realm directly. The ancient god who created this realm left a rumor that only the Shunluo realm has the chance to become a divine lord. Yes, the Shunluo realm. Those thieves came to our world secretly and took away some things without leaving a trace. But we can't go there. Now that this realm has changed, it looks like it's not long before we descend on the Shunluo realm. The first thing I have to do is to suppress the Supreme Saint Parliament. I heard that it's the #1 force in the Shunluo realm and no one can match it. The 3 of you shouldn't keep thinking about fighting and killing. Advancing to the Divine Lord realm is the most important thing. Who would have thought that our lifespans would be reduced so drastically after advancing to the Divine King realm? Every step we take, every blink of an eye, we are constantly consuming our lifespans. If we don't rely on the endless supply of blood qi to replenish our lifespans, even a random 6th grade will live longer than us. Sea King, the rumor left behind by the ancient gods might not be true. The ancient gods themselves didn't manage to take the final step and even escaped from the Shunluo realm. If we want to do it, I'm afraid it'll be extremely difficult. Why don't we just sweep through the Shunluo realm and turn all the living beings there into blood qi? This way, our lifespans will definitely be greatly increased. Only then can we wait for the opportunity to advance to the Divine Lord realm. We'll see. In silence, the 4 pairs of eyes no longer exchanged glances. They once again focused their attention on the arena of the supremacy competition. Hierarch Qing Sha slowly walked down from the high platform. Every step he took was in the void, and he looked as relaxed as if he was strolling in a garden. When the Sea clan in the imperial capital saw this scene, their expressions instantly brightened. Joy appeared on their faces. They had finally waited for Hierarch Qing Sha. You, come down. Hierarch Qing Sha pointed at Ning Qi and said with a faint smile. You must kill him. Hierarch Tian Du stared at Ning Qi and unconsciously clenched his fist. Hierarch Quicksand, who was standing behind him, lowered his head and looked at Hierarch Tian Du's fist before looking at Ning Qi. He also began to pray in his heart that Ning Qi would die at the hands of Hierarch Qing Sha. In that case, not only would he lose a great enemy, but Hierarch Tian Du would also not vent his anger on him. This matter would be considered resolved. Sha Jia and Lian Xing had the same thought as the 2 of them. It could be said that apart from Giant Ghost and Mad Lion, there was basically no one in the Divine Star Nation who did not want Ning Qi to die. On the contrary, many ultimate gods from the Lori Divine Nation and the Octaterra Divine Nation were looking forward to it. They wanted to see how strong Ning Qi was and did not want him to be defeated at the hands of Qing Sha. Young master, you can do it. Little Yuer clenched her fist and waved it. With the force of thunder. Limacho slowly said. Ning Qi looked at the crowd, smiled, and slowly walked off the high platform. Everyone's eyes followed Ning Qi. They did not even dare to blink for fear that they would miss the wonderful scene. I will punch you as many 6th grade C clan experts as you kill. Before I finish, you are not allowed to die. Hierarch Qing Sha looked at Ningqi with a smile. Oh? What if I don't die after you finish? Ningqi smiled. That's impossible. Hierarch Qing Sha smiled and shook his head. How about this? If I don't die after you finish, how about you call me Grandpa? Ningqi smiled as he opened the 9 inner hidden gates. His physical body's aura suddenly skyrocketed hundreds of times. Chapter 40-59. The mortal body's aura and cultivation were different. After opening the 9 inner hidden gates, Ningqi's mortal body had reached a terrifying degree. However, to the outside world, Ningqi seemed a little different. Even Heavenless Ultimate God would not be able to detect the real change in Ningqi if they did not fight directly. Too arrogant! How dare a newly ascended Ultimate God be so disrespectful to our Ultimate God Qing Sha? Don't kneel and beg for mercy later. The Ultimate Gods on the Neptune Kingdom's side immediately cursed. The rank 6 and rank 5 experts also stared at Ningqi as if they wanted to tear him apart. This kid still doesn't know when death is at hand. Qin Long stared at Ningqi. He admitted that Ningqi was stronger than him. That punch had injured him quite badly. However, no matter how strong a newly ascended Ultimate God was, he would only be at the same level as Ultimate God Martial Sky. How could he be strong enough to survive the 4 tribulations? For so many years in the creation divine territory, there had never been a newly advanced Ultimate God who was comparable to a 4 tribulation Ultimate God. The gap between the two was huge. Hee, little fellow, do you want me to call you Grandpa? Divine Supremacy Qing Sha laughed instead of getting angry. Ningqi said with a smile, do you want to make this bet? All right, I'll make a bet with you. Hierarch Qing Sha laughed heartily. The next moment, his figure suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already in front of Ningqi. The corners of Hierarch Green Fiend's mouth curled into a smile as he gently tapped Ningqi's chest. I only need 1 finger, and I can. The smile on Hierarch Qing Sha's face suddenly disappeared. His finger was pointed at Ningqi's chest, but nothing happened from beginning to end. The Ultimate Gods present were confused. Including Heavenless Ultimate God, no one knew what Ultimate God Qing Sha was trying to do. What does he plan to do? Hierarch Lian Xing glanced at Hierarch Skyless. I'm not sure. Maybe he has his own plans. Heavenless Hierarch shook his head. Exalted Divinity Buddha and the young Phoenix looked at each other. They wanted to see each other's reaction, but it seemed that neither of them knew what Exalted Divinity Green Fiend was planning. Could it be that he had just comprehended some kind of ultimate technique? So what, Divine Lord Qing Sha? Ningqi looked at him with a smile. Just now, a majestic and terrifying force surged into Ningqi's body from Hierarch Qing Sha's fingertip. If it were any other tribulation ultimate god, such as Tiandu, they would have lost their combat power in an instant. However, Ningqi's physical body was able to neutralize that huge force. Every cell in his body was like a planet. Countless cells combined together to form a universe that no one had ever discovered before, like rivers running into the sea. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. You have a sage body. There was a hint of seriousness in Hierarch Qing Sha's eyes. But in his heart, he still did not take Ningqi seriously. He had only used 30% of his strength in that move just now. Sanctification of the mortal body? The young Ultimate God Phoenix subconsciously glanced at Ultimate God Martial Sky. Ultimate God Martial Sky's face was a little gloomy as he thought he was the only new Ultimate God with a physical sanctification. He did not expect there to be another one. On the other hand, Skyless Ultimate God was sizing up Ning Qi from head to toe. He was also a physical ascension saint in the past. Those who used such a method to break through to the Ultimate God realm would need to go through extremely difficult training. Ordinary Ultimate Gods were no match for them if they succeeded. That was because from rank 5 onward, cultivation focused more on the training of the physical body. However, there were too few such methods and too few people who had the talent to become a sage body. Hence, this method did not become mainstream. Don't forget our bet. Do you want to punch me again? Ning Qi smiled. Haha, I used 30% of my strength just now. I'll use 60% now. Hierarch Qing Sha smiled and pointed at Ning Qi's chest again. Those two moves were not fancy, so the God Realm warriors in the capital stared at the void in confusion. That's 60% of your strength? And then? Ning Qi looked down at Hierarch Qing Sha's finger and looked up with a smile. At that moment, all the ultimate gods' faces turned serious. If I was the one who took 60% of Hierarch Qing Sha's strength, I would have been seriously injured. Hierarch Martial Sky was shocked. He suddenly looked at the young Divine Phoenix and said in a low voice, "Is Hierarch Qing Sha teaming up with the Divine Kingdom of Starry Sky to create momentum for this lad to suppress us?" Impossible. The young Divine Phoenix shook her head and looked at Ning Qi with a complicated expression. Hierarch Qing Sha would never join forces with the Divine Kingdom of Starry Sky. This lad has killed too many members of the Oceanic clan. Even if they were to join forces, they would not support him. Then how? Hierarch Martial Sky did not think that Ning Qi was stronger than him. He still felt that something must have gone wrong, but they had yet to find out. Isn't Celestial Emperor Bei Xian too powerful? How could he take 60% of a 4 ultimate god's strength so easily? Sha Jia was dumbfounded. He suddenly thought of Ning Qi's words and could not help but feel a chill in his heart. He secretly regretted choosing sides earlier and offending Ning Qi because of Divine Skyless. A new ultimate god who could take 60% of a 4 ultimate god's strength would definitely step into the 4th tribulation in the future as long as he did not die today. At that time, how strong would Ning Qi be? Sha Jia regretted thinking about it, but it was too late. If he met Ning Qi in the ultimate god battle, he had no doubt that Ning Qi would kill him with one punch. Only Hierarch Qing Sha can kill him in this ultimate god battle to get rid of this worry. Sha Jia clenched his fists and unconsciously cheered for Qing Sha. At the same time, Sha Jia was not the only one who was cheering for Hierarch Qing Sha. Tiandu, Lu Sha, and the others were also doing the same thing. Hierarch Qing Sha retracted his finger with a solemn expression. He felt that Ning Qi was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy he used, it would disappear. Very well, a new ultimate god can make me use my full strength. You should be proud. Hierarch Qing Sha slowly said. The smile on Ning Qi's face gradually disappeared. It was impossible for him to be as calm as before if his opponent was going to use his full strength. Next, Hierarch Qing Sha did not use his finger anymore. Instead, he raised his fist and punched toward Ning Qi. Ning Qi wanted to see where his physical body's limit was, so he did not dodge. Boom! The terrifying aftermath directly shook the entire battlefield's protective shield and flashed golden light. The golden lines did not fade away. At that moment, everyone finally knew how terrifying Hierarch Qing Sha's full-strength punch was. After the punch, everyone hurriedly looked at Ning Qi, wanting to see how he would react. In the end, they only saw Ning Qi take 3 or 4 steps back, then look at Hierarch Green Fiend as if nothing had happened. You aren't that great. Ning Qi smiled at Hierarch Qing Sha. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.